Welcome. Happy Saturday. My name's William. Welcome to Sci-Fi Center Live, the overnight edition. I'm William, hosting from right in the center of Las Vegas, Nevada, about 800 feet away from the Las Vegas Strip, in the shadow of the Stratosphere Tower. Thank you guys for being here. I'm here to do my usual bit, shepherding you from Saturday night into Sunday night. Unlike most of the other shows, we have several guests lined up. They won't be in the order necessarily that I put in the thumbnail because different people are having different technical issues. But I do have one in the back room that'll be coming in real soon. So I have him set up. So we're going to handle some of those guests, talk about some of their topics, and then the back half of the show, we're going to do our usual question and answer. And who knows where that'll lead us, given what you guys come up with sometimes. But one of the biggest things that we've been discussing this week off and on, and I did say I would put a lid on it, but there was one particular article that I read that I did want to bring the author on, and I did want to talk about it. The big subject of the week is a lot of people were tossing around the whole Netflix possibility. However slim it was still a possibility that legitimately had to be talked about. Ended up bumping heads with every other Cro-Magnon that says we should just move on. It's ridiculous. Everybody came on and came at me and messaged me and everything else, telling me it'll never happen. But then they can continued on to back up that hot air comment with bullshit. Basically, didn't give me any nuts and bolts reason why something like that couldn't happen. Even after I spoke on the air for about an hour and a half, giving you legitimate financial, logistical reasons how it could, all the while saying that it most likely will never happen because I don't think a lot of the people involved willpower, but everybody gave me financial reasons that were bullshit. Everybody gave me schedule reasons that were bullshit. But what it brought me to remember and recall and realize that why are we even talking about that possibility? We're talking about that possibility because somebody fucked up over and over and over again for 5 years. And they've flown the coop, gone on their jobs, been fired, been pushed out. But the fans are the ones that have been left empty-handed. And I'm not talking about the Snyder Bros or bots or cultists, wherever you bonehead name you guys like to give us. The general public makes up the majority of his audience. All right, the guys that you call cultists went to go see Black Adam, went to go see all these boneheaded B and C characters that they pushed out in place of the mainline characters. It's the general public that stayed home. And it doesn't matter how many hardcore fans you get on anything. If the general public opts out, you're done. And it made me realize that we're here for a reason. And had this just been resolved, and I've been saying, everybody else has been saying, restore the Snyderverse, hashtag this, hashtag. My hashtag has been resolve the Snyderverse. My hashtag has been conclude the Snyderverse. Not for any particular fans, because I hear the other bullshit reason about giving toxic fans what they want. That generally comes from the knucklejackers that just, they like the sound of their own voice, I guess. So do I. But not for any particular fan in particular on one end of the spectrum or the other, but for that 98% that's in the middle that looks at your product right now as a broken bunch of pieces just on the floor. When they walk up on those pieces, they look at trash and they're like, you know what, this is too complicated to jump into. Let me go jump into these other things that are much more easier. So the article I'm talking about is an article from Screenrant, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it up on the screen. And I hate the new StreamYard, the way this does this, but I want to make sure I get it up there before. And there we go. All right, I'm going to read most of the article, and then we're going to go ahead and bring in the author of that article. And there we go. All right, under two craves. All right, title of the article: If DC isn't restoring the Snyderverse, it needs to properly end it. And I was so happy to see this because this is what I've been echoing for the longest of times, and to see it on a format like Screenrant, I was very happy, pleasantly surprised to see this. So for the deep breath and drink some water. Yes, for the DCU to start with a new era, it needs to give the Snyderverse a true conclusion. The DCU, formerly known as the DCEU, has been through a roller coaster of behind-the-scenes struggles, most notably on the reshoots of 2017 version of Justice League. Zack Snyder's original version of the film was eventually released in 2021 as Zack Snyder's Justice League after a massive fan campaign, DC's difficulties have continued since. This eventually culminated in the announcement of Henry Cavill departing as Superman after having just returned to the role in Black Adam. Cavill's departure seems to signal that DC Studios, under the leadership of James Gunn and Peter Safran, is looking to completely for a start of the DCU. While that would be a sad end to DCU as it began with Man of Steel, there are always DC Studios to make a transition from one cinematic universe to another streamlined. In a nutshell, the DC Studio is electing to start anew. Can you give the Snyderverse a final bow? All right. Part of the disappointment of Cavill's Superman departure was so widespread is that it's the latest example of DCU story arcs or characters after either being shortchanged or prematurely ended. The theatrical cut of Justice League was where that began, with Snyder's planned Justice League sequels being scrapped and numerous other cast members left with uncertain futures. Superman himself had been on one of the major examples with his headless cameo in Shazam, a silhouette cameo in Peacemaker before the short-lived return in Black Adam. The constant question about Ben Affleck's Batman future has also dragged DCU since the theatrical cut of Justice League, while Ray Fisher's dispute with Warner Brothers was never resolved in a way that gave him a cyborg future. Enveloped in all of these problems is a lack of any concrete plans to bring a Justice League together on screen again. Despite the popularity of the characters cast by Snyder, even if DC Studios have planned for a new take on the DC universe, getting there will inevitably require another DCU disappointment, and especially harsh one after Justice League Redemption through the Snyder Cut. The most ironic part of WB's panicked decision to jettison Snyder's DCU plans is that the story would have been concluded already had they stayed the course. Snyder's conception of the DCU was a Superman-centric 5-movie arc with spin-offs for individual characters to fill out the story. Following Zack Snyder's Justice League, Snyder's outlines plans for the Justice League sequels showed the League commanding the entire world in a showdown with Darkseid, Ray Porter. Affleck's Batman story and Justice League sequels would also culminate in him sacrificing himself in the final battle, with Lois and Clark's son Bruce become the new Batman years later. All right, so like I said, had they just done this, we would have already been well on our way. But not only did they not do this, not only did they scrap the plan, they didn't have anything in the interim 5 years, but Polka Dot Man, Shazam, Black Adam, Weasel. I mean, so that article was written by a gentleman named Brad Curran, and I'd like to go ahead and bring him in now. How you doing, Brad? Thank you for being here.
Hey, William. Thanks for having me aboard.
The most frustrating part for me the last 5 years is just hearing the mindless responses to what I consider to be a legitimate gripe as far as how this has been handled. And your article really puts on a lot of that and brings to the surface the importance. Would you agree or disagree?
Yeah. Thank you for the compliment there. And excuse me. And yeah, as I mentioned, I'm actually just getting past COVID here.
Yeah, you told me that's why you're not on screen, because you look pale.
Yeah, I look like a ghost right now, so I kind of keep that up. But I'll be able to go back into the world on tomorrow. But yeah, kind of in a nutshell, the article came about. It really was. It pretty much jumped into my head after the Henry Cavill news. The second Henry Cavill news, and that really, as you said, it's been the last 5 years we've really been on this sort of this back and forth of just we don't know what's happening. There's Cavill's in, he's out. We don't know what's going on with Ben Affleck, and then the Snyder Cut, of course, when it finally came out, that was, I think a lot of people at the time perceived that was really kind of a game changer, because that really brought a lot of people who maybe were detractors of Man of Steel and BVS that won a lot of people over with that. And then we had, of course, one thing that I didn't really get into in the article, but this is something that I would really point to, is we had within the couple of days after it had dropped, we had that day of the 1.5 million Restore the Snyderverse tweets, which really kind of caught the world on fire. And that I think that's something I would really point to, when you're talking about you're running a business, in this case a film studio, and something like that happens. I mean, once in a blue moon. You don't get an event like that, or a groundswell of support for something like that just handed to you on a silver platter. So that was something I think the studio, they really should have been on that like white on rice. And it's just been this, ever since then, it's been this very almost adversarial relationship between the studio and the fan base. And, of course, now it's kind of led into where we're at with the beginning of DC Studios and, James Gunn and Peter Safran coming in. I don't personally have any problem or any issue with James Gunn, as a filmmaker, as an individual. I mean, he's made things I like. I'm not a massive Guardians fan, but I mean, he's done things like Brightburn that I really enjoyed, and he was a screenwriter of Dawn of the Dead. So I don't doubt his capability as far as planning out a cohesive universe, or like his Superman script that he has in the works. But the essence of what I wrote in the article is that it really is. Yeah, it's like we're kind of at part 3 of this 5-part arc, and it's you got so much support for that. After the Snyder Cut came out, it's and I do try to touch upon just because it's something people are really pushing for. It's it's not as as simple as getting the Snyder Cut out, but it's still a thing of like, well, why not conclude this story before you start another?
I muted myself just so I can feedback. When I start talking about this stuff, I always try to think from the center. I really don't do the extremes. I don't do the absolutes. How much do you think that the lack of conclusion to the only thing that they've done in the last 10 years will hurt the ramp up to anything else that's coming from James Gunn and Peter Safran?
Yeah, it's that's an interesting thing to kind of ponder, because and part of that is because we still don't have like a real full picture of what James Gunn is heading into, because obviously he said, I've written this Superman script that's with a younger Superman, it's not going to be Henry Cavill, but he also made the comment of, we like Henry, we're fans, we're talking about working together in the future. And same thing with The Rock and the Black Adam situation. And then he's also mentioned we're in talks with Ben Affleck to direct something. So it's really kind of what we're going into is something that I think people are kind of scratching their heads on anyway. It's like, is this a reboot? Is this a semi reboot? What exactly is this? But as far as leaving this unconcluded, I feel like I do feel like there's a not insignificant portion of people who are going to be left like, what's the best word to look for?
Unfulfilled.
Probably, yeah.
The one I come up with. I think, to me, when I see this in my original article, when I see the Netflix thing, and when I see all these, the fact that the conversation still comes up, where are the canary in the coal mine? I think that's where other YouTubers and online eggheads seem to forget, is that for all the noise that any of us are perceived to make, there's 1,000 other people. For every one of us, there's 1,000 other people who are not hardcore fans who will just quietly walk away from all this and never give what could be a very creative and very clever James Gunn feature a shot. My opinion is that this has been handled horribly so far. That could all change with a tweet, by the way. But right now, the way it's been rolled out and the perception of it is left a lot to be desired.
Yeah, well, like one thing that Gunn is doing that, I mean, again, jury's still kind of out on where it's all headed, but one thing he is doing that I do think is definitely a step up from the previous regime is that you see on Twitter, he does get out there and say, this rumor or this bit of gossip isn't true, and corrects things a lot, which that's really a big reversal from the previous regime, where there was just everybody was just in the dark. There was constant uncertainty. I mean, rumors were just flying around left and right, and and I think that in itself really did a lot of damage.
Did you cut out, or did I cut out?
Did you still hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Did I cut out there?
Okay, I don't know. One of us must have cut out.
Okay, sorry about that.
It probably could have been me, but yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, it was on James. Yeah, he's with him, correcting or jumping into the rumor mill as he has done a fair amount on Twitter lately. I feel like that is, if nothing else, that's a big step up from where we were at before, where it was just totally.
I definitely agree there because, like I said, I think that it is important for him to control the perception of what he's doing. I wish he would be a little bit less cryptic, but right now I understand, because of he can't give us everything. But and I've left myself open to enjoying what he may put out. It's just a path there right now, and it's not all his path. This is not all him. This is 5 years of just complete mismanagement. He wouldn't even be here if the previous management was any good.
Yeah, that's. I think that's definitely. I mean, I think probably one thing that really comes across in my article, I hope so anyway, is that all of this really does sort of trace back to when they did the initial Justice League reshoots and just pulled the plug on where they're heading with Snyder's art, which as I said and as you read off there, it's like the whole thing would have been wrapped up by now anyway. We wouldn't have had this nonstop is Ben Affleck still Batman things circling around, and now that's what's happening. Henry Cavill is Superman, and because they did that, and they didn't have any alternative. They just said we're just abandoning ship on what we were in the moment, but they didn't. They left everybody else to really kind of carry the burden of that as far as the other filmmakers and the cast and the writers and everything like that. And everything just suffered so much for that because we ended up with headless Superman cameos. There's we have a Batman who's not in universe. The only time we see the Justice League assembled is a shadow cameo on Peacemaker. Not even all of them are there at the time, and it's just been this big chain reaction from that one big mistake of doing the Justice League reshoots, and so now here we are once we actually got Zach's intended version of the movie out, and alongside that with his his general roadmap of where JL 2 and 3 were to go. We also know quite a bit about Ben Affleck's Batman story, and kind of having that out there, I feel like it's really it's left a lot of the fandom, and probably as you see also the general audience with a sense of like, well, why did we not that this came out, this was well liked, why is there you're not capitalizing on this at all? And there's with kind of how the rollout of the Snyder Cut went, I think there's something to be said also for there was a fair amount of friction behind the scenes with this.
I was looking for Ann Sarnoff's head immediately, like the Monday, Tuesday after that when she came out with that article. I had her on the fire clock, and I'm like, this is a person who's probably going to be fired within a year or so of all this. All these guys are probably going to be gone. And then when the merger happened, I'm like, okay. And then I would just bet people like, they're going to stick around. They're not going to get rid of those guys. They're doing great. And Hamada's doing great. And I'm like, yeah, all right, guys. And they're all gone. So.
Yeah, that article, the Ann Sarnoff interview, that was a real. I mean, that definitely blindsided. I think just about everybody when that dropped, because it was a real, when the Snyder Cut dropped, it was it was kind of a moment where everybody was we were kind of on cloud nine as far as being a DC fan, or you would have thought being running the DC IP within Warner Brothers. So that was it was such
take the win. Take the win.
Exactly.
Take the win. They could even do that. And I'm like, so every time I get angry at, I'm not even angry at James Gunn. Like I said, I'm not going to join the fire of James Gunn hashtag. I actually think the guy can do stuff. I actually think the guy's a brilliant storyteller. I do believe that he could put something together that I will enjoy. My opinion is that, and I've been in the comic book industry and in all this stuff, I've been since forever. Collector since 8, owner since 18. Most reboots fail. That's just fact. Most reboots in general fail. So you're automatically putting yourself against the 8 ball by even doing the concept of reboots. I think fans and fanboys and fanboy logics, they throw around the word reboot like it's fucking candy, and it's not. There are ramifications that come with reboots, and there are reasons. Usually, the reason why reboots fail is why they happen to begin with. I consider reboots an act of disorganized desperation, and that's generally why they fail. So even though I believe that individual can do this, I think the odds are against them simply because of just the nature of reboots and the failure rate. That's just where I'm at. What do you think about that?
Yeah. As far as and again, you kind of go back to what I said earlier. We still there's still not a lot of clarity on exactly what Gunn is doing because things I'm different comments he's made. So, and as you've said on other streams, people should probably just kind of take a step back and just like not try to assemble a whole puzzle with 5 pieces at the moment. But as far as what you said about reboots, and I think I did. I hope this came across in the article. One thing I touched upon also is that the situation with Justice League is, I think everybody can agree, unique.
It's a one in a million. That's for damn sure.
In so many different ways, and part of that is also, the situation that Zach left the movie was, I think in hindsight we can say was, the word I used in the article was sordid. As far as what went down behind the scenes when Joss Whedon came in, and we know the kind of the controversy there. So the path of the Snyder Cut 2 coming out, the sort of the impact that it's left is really is, as I said, unique, but it's also it's one where you're talking about rebooting or abandoning this story in a situation where it's, I think, inevitably going to leave a much worse taste in a lot of people's mouths than most reboots. Like you said, going from like Batman or Robin to Batman Begins, that was really the beginning of reboots. And then, but again, these circumstances were not, it didn't have that kind of negative connotation. It didn't have that feeling of just a really sour, kind of audience, studio relationship, and that had unfolded or had taken place over literally half a decade. So, I think a lot of that really taints, kind of the current situation with the Snyder Cut, the Snyderverse, and everything tied into that. And then, as far as what you said about again Gunn's capability, again, he's made things I like. I don't doubt his ability as a storyteller, as a filmmaker, and that's my hope, is that there's some kind of attempt at a resolution or a conclusion that maybe we're not privy to right now, or maybe they might come to that decision in the near future. But I feel like the situation being what it is with the history of this movie and the history of this franchise, that's really if you want to close the book on it in a way that this doesn't leave a lot of hearts broken and a lot of chips on a lot of shoulders, I think that might that's probably that's your best path, I think.
And see, for me, because a lot of people will say, well, Snyder people they're not owed anything and they don't have to do this. I'm like, okay, once again, if you have to make your argument against by narrowing your argument towards a certain segment of the fan base, you're already full of shit. Because I say, let's just be greedy. Let's just take the money that the other 98% are going to have, because guess what? Inevitably, when people come into this whole James Gunn thing, he's not going to have a lot of movies out to begin with. And I got all this content out here with these characters and these actors in it that's on TNT, it's on CBS, it's on HBO Max, it's on other networks. And I want the brand new guy who may come through the James Gunn doorway to not look at my broken Legos left on the ground because I was too lazy to finish the story. I want them to come to a whole product. I want to make as much money off of my old IP stuff as I am off my new, and but vice versa. Sometimes greed is the answer, and I just think fans just don't understand that. And I think companies, it's just too easy for them to take the money. It's just take the money. Forget about hashtag take the money and stop saying, well, the Snyder fans this or the other people that. Once again, once I hear people start that as their argument, my brain shuts them off. I want to pop open their head and put something in there in that empty space that is currently already there, because they don't seem to understand or appreciate the dynamics that the other 98%, not the geeks like me walking around with a Shazam shirt, but just Joe Average who just wants this to be easy to go in, get involved in, and continue. Marvel, like I said, I don't like all of Marvel's comics. I like a lot of it, but they make it easy for their fan to engage. Everything that you've got involved in since the MCU's begun, you've gotten a resolution to. You've gotten your full run to these characters. And so not only is DC, if they do a reboot, like I said, he could tweet tomorrow and change everything, but they're doing an intergenerational reboot. They're doing a Hellboy, which basically means the people that are currently in those roles are still very well positioned to play those roles, but you're switching in the middle of a generation. I'm not doing a Nolan where the movie's like 15, 16 years ago. I'm not doing a Reeves where it's like 20, 30 years ago where those characters were ran their course. And all those characters that I brought up had a resolution to whatever they were doing. This is the one that doesn't. And like I said, I've always said, why do you expect me to give you brand new money when I just watched what you did with my old money the last 9 years? Why should I trust you on another ride? It's like I said, it's like a marathon. I've been running this marathon for 9 years. I get to the finish line, and there's a guy with the starter pistol that eliminates the finish line and says, none of those miles matter. Oh, by the way, can you run another marathon for me? It's a tough ask. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's a tough ask, you know?
Well, and what you were saying about the Marvel comparison, not to kind of take everything back there, but I mean, it's kind of that tends to, I think, be the elephant in the room on a lot of, especially a lot of superhero talk these days. But as you said, it's like, yeah, they did, they have provided, resolution or an ending or, an end point, as far as an ongoing franchise can, like Avengers Endgame is a good example I use where it's, and one of the things I really liked about that was the fact that, I mean, yes, it's not the end of the MCU, but, but it does have a real feeling of finality to it. And it does feel like this is kind of where it's all led. I think really the only loose end, is Loki getting the Tesseract. Other than that, it's like they could theoretically have said Endgame, like this is the conclusion of the MCU.
Well, I got an ending of the Infinity Saga.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's when you're talking about the general fan, and that's where the damage is. Like I said, they don't have to be hardcore geeks like me. They're not monkeys with little blocks doing sign language trying to figure out things. They know when something hasn't happened, especially when you have something to compare it by. Like you have this Marvel thing right here that is complete and got your resolution, and then you got this other thing over here that didn't end because you went to those movies too. And I think people forget that the average Joe, the non-geek, does go to all these movies. He's not he's not on YouTube or Twitter like we are, but he goes to these movies. He knows he hasn't seen or she hasn't seen Superman in 5 years. They know that. They don't need to be on Twitter. They don't need to be part of any kind of cult or bot. They know that Superman has not been on the screen, proper big screen, in 5 years, and that hurts the brand, in my opinion.
Well, they definitely were. When I saw Black Adam, they definitely were happy to see Cavill back again in that end credits scene, which I certainly was myself. And then
my crowd cheered. We promoted that movie. My crowd cheered, and then I had to hear well, that didn't move the needle. I'm like, you spent 5 years giving me Weasel, Huntress, Polka Man, Shazam, and every other sidekick B character for 5 years. You fed that after a diet of the Trinity for 3 years. You spent the last 5 years giving me a diet of B and C characters, and expect everybody, a general fan, to run back to the dinner table when you ring the bell for a minute. So.
Yeah, it's interesting because I did really like Black Adam a lot myself, and I was really looking forward to the concept the Rock had of the Black Adam Superman showdown, and as one thing I mentioned in the article, that could also be that could be a component of the resolution of the Snyderverse. Zach himself is on camera with Tyrone Magnus, I believe it was, saying he could see Black Adam, fitting within, within in his universe and his set of films. So, but yeah, your point about the lack of a tangible Superman presence, I think that did really take its toll, on the franchise. And then Batman's really an interesting kind of situation because, we had the situation with Ben Affleck, and so we didn't have an in-universe Batman. We did have the Batman, debut in March last year. That's off on its own, separate, kind of island, but. And it did very well for itself, and I enjoyed it a lot myself. But yeah, even that one, I feel like there was I don't buy this talk that it was a bomb or anything, but I mean, there was maybe some consternation about why did that one not hit $1 billion? Was that maybe a side effect of the kind of I guess the fallout is maybe the best word to go with post GL 2017.
Well, I promoted both. I promoted these movies because that's what we kind of do a thing where we do the promotion of the movies. Biggest question I was asked, and it was by the average fan, is what happened to Ben Affleck's Batman? Because the very last Batman they saw was Ben Affleck. And if they're not on the internet and if they're not following it as closely as we are, they had a legitimate question of who's this guy? It's like, I mean, when I'm giving away chickens to say, hey, we got another Batman movie, and then well, where's the sequel? I mean, it's confusion. I get more questions than answers. And I think with the Batman, it was a matter of that tone of Batman. I love the Batman. But that Batman isn't for everybody. And that's one of the advantages that DC has always had. They can give you different dimensions of the same character that can be for you. Like, your group setting Batman is a lot less abrasive than your solo Batman in the gutters of Gotham. So mind blowing, but yeah, I got another guest coming up in the back. But hey, your article made my day because it's not just this talking head saying something. It's somebody who can actually articulate it and spell and write and all that, actually saying what I was thinking. And like I said, Screenrant, I follow Screenrant on a daily basis. Stephen Colbert, I follow him on other channels. I follow his articles too. So. Hopefully, like I said, this ain't gonna be your last time here. So thank you for coming on, Brad, and keep up your work.
Before one last thing, I wanted to just drive in. I did want to give a quick shout out to Four Nerds and who did Project Justice League, which for those of you who may not know what that is, that was they basically they took the kind of the whiteboard outline of JL 2 and 3. And they produced it as a motion comic, and they got a lot of people in fandom involved with that, and they even had some people, some of the cast members from the movie on board with it. And of course, they tied it into an AFSP drive, and that's such a cornerstone of the Snyder fandom. And I did want to give them a shout out. I think they did a tremendous job with that. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend giving it a look, and of course, chip into AFSP if you can. And I've shared that with a lot of people, and they thought it was really awesome, and they've said, "Yeah, let's." I'd love to see the.
I brought. Hey, not only did these viewers that are watching this show, we actually had Andre on here. We had Nicotina on here. The night of the show, and we definitely put the link in there. We definitely pushed it as much as we could. Big fan of the cause. Wish there wasn't a reason to have that cause, but hey, it's here, and I loved what they did. So yeah, I pimped the hell out of that on my sites, and I had him on here. The night, a couple of about a week or so before it got released, and then I spread the link, and we showed bits and pieces of it during our show that aired that night because it was on Christmas Eve, our time that it aired. So we were live when it hit. So yeah, it is great. Everybody watch. I will put that link in the chat before we go tonight. But yeah, definitely support that, and anything that has to do with AFSB as far as I'm concerned, it's you can't lose there in that cause.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, I just want to get them out there real quick for that because that was
definitely. I'm always trying to promote those guys and get better, man. So next time we meet, we can actually see you and you're not looking like Nosferatu or whatever.
I hope so. Yeah, I should be able to get out of the world tomorrow. But William, thank you so much for having me on, and hope that article continues to go far.
I hope the news gets better, and like I said, as we increase, we'll report. All right, thanks a lot, Brad.
Take care. Bye.
Bye, man. All right, real quick, I want to get to a super chat because I have not been able to pay attention because we got one more guest in the back room. Laura Cartores, what do you think about the Flash situation? I can only get them cutting Cavill and Gal scenes if they were setting up a future stuff. Even Joss's league left with the cast, so you can't not show them again. I don't know. It all depends on what James Gunn is going to give you. I got a feeling that it's not all plain cut black and white. I got a feeling that there's like a lot of things that are making people upset. Once again, that we don't necessarily have the pieces to. And I'll go back to reminding even myself this: disassemble the puzzle that we put together in our own minds and let it come together. That's not easy. Even I myself, my mind goes to trying to jam that piece of the puzzle together. However, once again, as murky as this all seems right now, we are a tweet or two away from him revealing something that could change everything. So I don't know what he's doing as far as the future of Henry Cavill. I know he said that he's going to put out a new movie, that a younger Superman, but he didn't come out and exclude any use of Cavill at all. He just says that Superman in his universe going forward is not going to be Cavill. But then we start getting into possibilities of alternate universes and everything else. So take what he said with enough grain of salt so that when he finishes what he's saying, we can put it all together. But right now, we're kind of out in a boat, motionless, and not knowing where we're going yet. And it's out of necessity. Once he reveals his slate, then I can better answer that question. But thank you for the support, Larry. All right, so my next guest is near and dear to me. I have been in Vegas since 1993, and when I got here, there was a station called Rock Avenue. Not radio station, it was KULV. It was a university radio. And one of the shows that they had for the type of music I listen to, which is hard rock, heavy metal, everything, was Rock Avenue. They would play it at 8 o'clock every night. And then, at that time, between 1993 and 1998, it was the height of post-grunge alternative music. To me, 1993 to 1998 is the best era of music compact that I've ever lived through. And I lived through the 80s stuff. So, the host of the current version of Rock Avenue, who had me on promoting Project Ripper, which got rained out, by the way, is Josh Coutts, and here he is. What's up, man?
What's going on, bro? How are you?
Consider us even. You only get 10 minutes. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's fine.
Explain to my cast, not cast, dude, I'm thinking Rocky Road. Explain to my viewers what Rock Avenue is. You could probably do it way better than me.
Yeah, Rock Avenue for me, I'm a huge independent guy. Like I grew up touring and playing music, and I've had a radio show that was called Viva Ska Radio for the last decade plus. And when they asked me to take over Rock Avenue is I get to place the underground ska and punk and indie and emo and hardcore and metal, and everything else is pretty much that, with a lot of the 90s alternative and a couple classic rock jams. But I usually try and not put so much of that, but a lot more punk, a lot more alternative, a lot of ska, a lot of indie shit. A lot of the underground stuff I like to keep in there. And I like to keep it, more for the underground in general. I like to showcase that. And I like to showcase a lot of local bands here from Las Vegas. I like to have them part of the show. And actually, my guests are a lot of local bands coming through. And a lot of the Vegas bands that have been on, it's just a cool thing. I'm just trying to give back as much as I possibly can to the community and help out anyway, in any way I can in building up our scene. That's kind of what I do. So it's, on top.
I remember ska when it got really, really big here in the 90s.
Yeah.
What draws you to ska versus any of the other particular types of music?
For me, definitely growing up, I heard the Specials from my dad, actually. The Specials Specials and Madness are kind of the two.
Our house.
They were kind of the ones that kind of set me off over the edge. But then later, a buddy of mine from high school, actually, like junior high, end of junior high to high school, got me really, really into ska music. And we used to go to, I'm from Santa Cruz, so we used to go to shows almost every week. There was a show almost, and I can go to sometimes 2 or 3. But we did, where I saw a lot of the brunt of my ska shows was we did $3 Thursdays, and you'd see big bands that are considered, big in the ska world. But you'd see them for $3 on like a Thursday night. and you'd see 2 or 3 of the what's considered headliners now for $3. And they'd sell out the place. They'd always sell out, but you'd have, be going to these shows for $3. And I was doing that since I was, a teenager, going to ska and punk shows at, whatever. On school nights, don't get me wrong, I'd roll into school. We'd pull in from dancing all night. We'd pull in home at like 3 a.m. and have to get up at, 6 o'clock for school. And we'd show up all messed up from dancing and mosh pitting and shit all night, But
cool. Where can they, I'm pulling up everything right now, but if they wanted to listen and they don't live in Las Vegas, how can they get on to Rock Avenue?
Right now you can go, we have a KUNV app, and you can check that out. It'll actually pop up, KUNV app, or go to kunv.org. If you are in Vegas, it's 91.5 FM. Yes, it's a jazz station, but I do Rock Avenue every Sunday nights from 8 to midnight, and it's a blast. I get to go up and just play tunes I enjoy for 4 hours, and I like to keep the music rocking as much as I possibly can. So, I know I brought you on, and I had a blast with you on the show. I would love to bring you on for a longer time, but
yeah, no, man, that was wild, and I can talk, especially about that, about this particular era of music. And
yeah,
like I said, I have good memories of Rock Avenue. Like I said, you had your mainline radio stations like 103.5, 107.5, and sometimes Comp 92.3, but they would play your mainstream stuff. So like I said, back, when you just had B-sides and stuff like that, the radios would play the A-sides. But the Rock Avenue would take those same bands. Like the first time I ever heard Bodies by Smashing Pumpkins was not on the radio.
right.
Even though they had played, all the mainline songs from Melancholy and Infinite Sadness, they would never play that song. And so I heard that song on Rock Avenue, and I'm like, and there were so many things, so many bands that were mainline bands that you just didn't hear those songs on the radio. You just heard the same old songs. And sometimes that would cause you to hate a band sometimes because they would play the same song over and over again. And then when you had bought the tape or you bought the disc or whatever, you realize that there was more to that band that just didn't get played on the main radio. So I was happy to have Rock Avenue around.
Right. I know I've actually had a bunch of people call in, which makes me excited because it means people are listening. But the idea of when they go, oh, who was that ska band, or that's a ska band, or, that I love that punk tune, who was that? And I always post the list of the songs I played throughout the night. I'll post every list I've had on, be it Smashing Pumpkins or Real Big Fish or the Specials or, or the Ramones or whatever I'm playing on the show. I've always liked to put my list out, and people are like, damn, that's a really good list, So it's like when I play a rare Oingo Boingo track or, a rare Devo track that's not Whip It, they're like, wow, they had other stuff. I'm like, yeah, they had more than 2 songs, people,
Yeah.
It's trying to, when I could show people, they're wrong. I've thrown in some tracks that people, even if they were a mainstream track, they were kind of a band that got lost in the mix. There's a couple of those bands I've played, that I go, wow, this, and people are like, when did this, track come out? I'm like, 1996. There's a few of those bands that I've done, and I'm like, yeah, this was kind of their one and only hit, but the band as a whole were great.
Possum Kingdom, like Possum Kingdom.
Right.
More than one song.
Yeah. Harvey Danger was one of them. Harvey Danger was one of the, I think, better alternative bands that came out of the 90s. And that first album they did was so incredible. They had such a great album.
One song that they just kept driving. What was their main? They only had the one hit that they played on the radio. I have it in my head.
Yeah, Flagpole Sitta.
Yeah, they would not stop playing that song.
Yep, and that's a great song. I still love that track to this day. But the rest of that album, if any of the other tracks got played, I think it would have been a different story. They were. That was definitely their pop tune, their pop rock alternative tune. And it's a great jam. I love it. But the rest of that album is stellar. It's just a fantastic album.
The one thing about it, because if it wasn't Rock Avenue, because like I said, it was limited amount of time on the air each night. The only other place I could get these songs, and wonder whether I wanted to make the investment in buying the music, was going to places like Warehouse, Virgin Megastore, or places like that, to where you could push and play the samples of the song.
Right.
And then that's how, like, Our Lady Peace. I mean, they would play one song from Our Lady Peace every other. I'm like, okay, I may hate this band, but then you go to these things and they wouldn't take requests for that.
Right.
The radio stations would not take, like, say, if I wanted to hear something else off of Navid, which was what I think their debut album, they ain't gonna play that. They're gonna play, you know, or Better Than Ever. They're only going to play the set list that I guess the studio or the record company would give them. And I think that's unfortunate because some, like you said, some of these bands could have had a lot more mileage, especially in the 90s. They wouldn't have been one-hit wonders. They're one-hit wonders in the mainstream way as far as like what people consider a success. But I was watching one of these guys on YouTube. He did one-hit wonders from the 90s, and I just happened to click on it. And I'm like, wait a minute, that wasn't a one-hit wonder. And I would start streaming off 3 or 4 songs that I knew from that band. But then it hit me that, okay, on the radio, to the layman, only one of those songs reached the radio. And I think that is what's tragic. You know?
Well, I think it's funny you go back, like bands like Sugar Ray, you know, people forget for a metal band before they made pop. Yeah, so Sugar Ray was metal, and they were really good at metal. The funny part, the one album they did, their first mainstream album, they released, it had that single Fly, which came out, 96 or 97?
Yeah.
But that whole entire album is a metal, borderline hardcore album, and it was actually really good metal. But I'm like, they never ever played that on any of the rock alternative stations. They just played Fly. And I was like, guys, they would have had a whole different crowd if people knew they were a metal band or a punk band at the time, you know, because they played punk, they played metal, and even dabbled in ska. But, you know, when they did Fly, they were like, oh, there's our money ticket. I'm like, yeah, but they didn't tackle the metal side, or they didn't tackle that. It's funny, like people that listen to that going, holy shit, where's the people that want the Fly track? You know, the people that, you know, that listen to the radio for the radio hits. Okay, cool, there's those people. But then the people that listen to music because they enjoy music would be like, holy crap, this is so different from what they are known for now. And I've played a track. If people look up, if people have never heard the track Cash by Sugar Ray, go look it up. It's heavy. It's actually a heavy jam. And people go, what the hell? I go, yeah, that's Sugar Ray. Same album as Fly, and before the 3 or 4 other pop albums they've had since. But their album before that one, and the 1 or 2 before were like punk and metal and this and that. And the last album they did with Fly was a metal album. So it's, guys, go check them out. It's funny that people don't know that. You know, I tell people, same thing with like Cherry Pop and Daddies. People don't realize that, you know, when the swing thing popped.
Zoot Right? That's another song that was driven in my skull.
Dude, it's a great track, but
it is.
But they were a punk band before. They were a punk band and they played ska and punk. The album or 2 before the Zoot Ride album came out. So it's like they had some almost like rockabilly punk shit that was very Social Distortion like. They had that was, you know, in my opinion, like kind of Real Big Fish kind of stuff like that, but better than Real Big Fish, more talent.
Ouch.
But in general, it was just that Cherry Bomb Daddies were one of those underrated bands that only, I mean, still to this day, they've only really had the one main radio hit. You know, they had some underground stuff since then, that albums have been really great, but that main swing album or swing song, because
very cool video, by the way, very cool video,
right? Great video, but the rest of that album itself has punk and ska and other jams on there, which they never touched or they never played. They didn't know how to market those multi-talented bands. You know, people that go, oh crap. I mean, it's like watching Silverchair. Silverchair is one of the most underrated alternative bands from the 90s, in my opinion. And they played their 1 or 2 radio hits.
Yeah, they had 2.
And the rest of the album, they're great tracks, but the rest of their albums are metal, almost very heavy, and they're very heavy metal. But they were never, you know, their first album, their second album, they didn't talk about those. Like they mentioned their 2 radio hits or whatever, and never did the rest of the stuff on their albums. Like, guys, there were so many better tracks or such good tunes, you never mentioned them or never talked about them, and that trips me out. I never understand why they do that.
Then there's there's their mainstream bands that did break it, that did make you know into the mainstream big hits, but because the radio only played certain things, I think a lot of the trajectory of what they produce, biggest one for me that drove me crazy for like the last 15 or 20 years is Weezer.
Yeah,
I got to see him in person. I am a huge Weezer fan. To me, if you are a power chord band, some people think that's an insult or something. I'm like, no. If you're really good at being a power chord band, be a power chord band. the Blue Album, I think is one of the greatest, one of my top favorite albums of all time.
Of course, I think that's absolutely one of the best written albums of all time. But I'm kind of that jerk that hasn't really liked their music since their second album, Pinkerton. So I haven't liked them in about 25 years. I've liked songs, but not albums. I think their last good album through and through was Pinkerton. That was the one after their Blue Album. I think they're a great live band. I can't take that away. Since
this new one that they've come out with, Winter, it's a throwback to their first two albums. I think you give that one a chance.
That's kind of what I heard, and I haven't checked it out yet. It's one of those I think I might just give it a taste.
Actually, too deep. It might be too much like Weezer, because I was feeling like I was back in the 90s again. I don't know if I want to go back there, but they were one of those bands where the alternative radio, the mainstream alternative, I hate using that term, but the ones that the general public got a hold to, they got a hold of certain songs like the Sweater Song and Buddy Holly, but then there's other songs on that album like The World Has Turned and Left Me Here. There
wasn't one bad. That Blue Album did not have a bad. There wasn't one bad track. Like that album, and from its open to end, is a fantastic album.
Yeah, you could just leave it playing. You could
100%. I've never had to skip any of their tunes. You know, that album on that one. It's funny when people listen to that. I go, dude, I don't have to skip one. There's never been on that album alone. I don't skip, and it's just like, really? I go, yeah, that album was one of the very few that were fantastic, you know. And again, going back to like the Smashing Pumpkins' Melancholy and Infinite Sadness, you know, as much as I like Bullet with Butterfly Wings in 1979, but the other stuff, they barely touched their second disc. They only played 1979. They didn't touch half the stuff on those two albums. That double-sided were 16 songs a piece, and 32 tracks, and you touched 2, maybe 3. You know, like, guys, some of these bands had so many tracks you didn't touch. And
I hadn't bought Melancholy and Infinite Sadness yet until I heard Bodies on Rock Avenue.
Right.
Because I'm like, it's too expensive and there's not going to be a lot of, you know. Then I'm like, okay, 90% of this release is I'm never going to hear this. Unless I just happen to be on my Walkman days where I had work and they brought in this song. And I knew it was Smashing Pumpkins, but it was a form of Smashing Pumpkins I did not hear on the radio. And that song is brutal. And I went out and I was working at Walmart. I remember that. I bought that damn thing on my lunch break.
Yep.
I bought that on my lunch break. And I'm like, wow. And that's because of Rock Avenue. So
I think that album through and through is one of the best albums ever written. I think it really is. I just think that I really wish a lot of those bands, you know, that wrote those tunes would, you know, people only know them for the radio hits. Like, you know, your people that okay, that album's great. But then you have the standard radio listener or MTV watcher or whatever, however you're getting your music nowadays, you know, and everyone's getting it from TikTok now or what have you. And it's trips me out that I'm like, cool, they have other music, guys. Like, listen to the rest of the albums per se. And Smashing Pumpkins had 5 albums. Guys, check them out. Go see their stuff.
The one that they released in 99, Machina.
Yeah.
I love that album.
Yeah.
I love that album. And it's underrated because he went so far out of his scope to make that album. And I was like, I appreciated every risk he took on that album, man. I Smashing Pumpkins is one of my back for seeing them for Lollapalooza all the way up till that point. But yeah, it's that's why I always, when I heard you were doing this again, it was not. I'm not a nostalgia guy, but I realized just how important this type of outlet is, because there's a lot of music that I would not have even given a shot if I just went on the surface songs that they played on the stations at that time.
Right.
You know, it was the same thing when I was in LA in pirate radio. You know, I grew up, my parents were Motown parents, so they didn't, you know, we weren't going to be listening to the same thing, because I grew up in LA. I went to school with LA kids, and mixed, you know, they had tapes and dub tape, everything that they would have. And, you know, pirate radio would play things that the regular K-Rock and all those guys would not play. But Metallica, they would play shortened versions of Metallica. And I'm like, dude, it's a 9-minute song. You faded away at 6 minutes. But on pirate radio, which is kind of like Rock Avenue, they played everything. Pirate radio would play the entire album. Justice for All, fuck it, we're playing it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what you tuned into. And the other stations were not doing that. So when I got to Vegas, and like I said, Rock Avenue was for at its time when I started listening to it, very revolutionary. And I think you said there's a lot of bands that I would not have been into or wouldn't even think that there's no way I'm going to buy that band. That song, that's a fluffy song. I'm not going to buy that. But then you hear on Rock Avenue, they're playing some hardcore shit on it. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay, that's them. All right, now I got to give them a shot. So like I said, it's glad to see it back.
I think it's funny is that at the time, so Metallica wanted to be a punk band. And Metallica, and they're like, oh, I guess we end up being metal or speed metal or, depending on, and they started writing their ballady stuff. But their goal when they started was to be a punk band. And it was funny that out of all the things, they're like, yeah, we just never end up doing it. We just somehow try to be punk, and then we end up writing music, I guess. And it's just funny is that when they do that, it's like, yeah, they went, they're kind of one of the bands that have kind of reinvented themselves for the rock or metal or punk scene or however you want to see it. They're one of the ones I think they've reinvented themselves a handful of times, and either you like it or you don't. And I think as a whole, over the past 40 plus years of Metallica, Metallica's been a band for what, 42 years going, it's like, guys, they've been a band for 40 plus years.
81 is when they got together.
Right.
I always ask myself, I was asking a buddy of mine this question. It's just like in a what if world.
Yeah.
What if they don't fire Dave Mustaine? What kind of world are you living in without that? Even if you don't like Megadeth per se, what Megadeth has meant to that genre? Can you imagine? I can't imagine. It's just weird.
Well, here's the thing. I just figure this way: if he stayed with Metallica, there'd probably be no Megadeth.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
And me growing up I grew, of course I'm a ska guy, but me growing up on punk and metal, I grew up on like Judas Priest and Megadeth and and Metallica and this and that, and it trips me out going, wait, I always forget there's a time I forget that he was part of Metallica.
Yeah, got fired and given a bus ticket.
Right, and it's that idea. The funny part is when they've played together, like they've played, I guess they've put shit aside, played over the years, and it's like I'm curious if they've ever had that conversation. Do you guys, think you should have kept me, type of thing, or yada yada?
They did. They sat down and they talked to each other on YouTube years later,
right?
And they're talking about it, and it's kind of gripping because as a fan, you really didn't. You thought you knew what was going on behind, and then when you hear them talk about it and bring it to the surface, it's actually deeper than that. And like I said, now there's a mutual respect because they respect him now. Somebody that they've had for years.
Megadeth is one of my favorite metal bands of all time. You can't discredit that band for being lesser.
One of the big four.
They're equally, if not better, in its own right than Metallica ever was. I think the ones that got overshadowed because Metallica is Metallica.
Yeah.
We've always had the Judas Priest and the Megadeths and shit like that. That
Motorhead.
Everyone,
Motorhead.
They would overshadow them a lot, and it's, everyone thinks the first metal band you think of is Metallica in general. I mean, I'm not talking the independent stuff, the smaller stuff, but the stuff that became the mainstream
commercial. That's the word I've been looking for the whole time. Commercial. There you
go. The commercial metal. The stuff that, the funny part is when they started, they weren't as commercial, but the stuff that broke. They needed something new. What did they find? Oh, they found Metallica. Okay, cool. And after Metallica, then Nirvana did its thing. And when the grunge thing hit, and once Nirvana did that changed the game for music in general. And then you had your bands, the Stone Temple Pilots and the Smashing Pumpkins and Soundgarden and Bush and all those bands that did that, even you had some of the other bands that like Jane's Addiction and this and that people forget that, if there probably wasn't those earlier rock or metal, where would this be? And people just don't think of stuff like that. And it's like, guys, but a lot of that stuff paved the way for anything now. But I also kind of think that most music now in general has kind of lost its balls. So I want music to come back to playing real instruments, in my opinion.
Yeah, that too. And like I said, we're not like 90-year-old men. We're both of us are around the same generation. It's just I am open to new music wowing me. It just doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
Stuff I end up listening to is because of the guys from the era that I did love are still producing stuff and making stuff.
I mean, I think a lot of it takes a lot of talent to what you're doing. It's just not my cup of tea nowadays. I've never been super excited. I have not been blown away by anything in the last probably 15 years, if not more. I go, okay, that's all right, and so I listen to the stuff my kids show me now, but I'm not, sadly enough, I'm not like, yeah, I haven't really been blown away. I've been blown away by a lot more like independent ska or underground punk, but any of the mainstream radio alternative or mainstream rock or pop or whatever it's supposed to be, nothing. And really, in the last 15 years, has really blown my mind that I've, double take to go, what was that? Let me check that out.
Yeah,
There's been some I'm like, okay, but I'm not like, nothing life changing, nothing that's made me really, really want to give it a second look.
I'm in the same spot. Well, do you have anything upcoming? Because I know when I was on your show, I promoted the hell out of the event I had going. What do you got coming up that because like I said, we got people that are watching from all over the world. We got some people in Australia. We got people everywhere. We've had some people come on from South Africa. So right now, here's your time to let the world know what you want. Sunday nights, 8 to 12. Any particular events coming up, or just?
I'm putting on about 3 concerts, 1 in February and 2 in March. We're doing stuff at Red Dwarf. If you ever gone to Red Dwarf here in Las Vegas,
I know that's that.
Red Dwarf is an awesome, like, kind of a tiki bar, but I will say this much: the best pizza I've had in Las Vegas, and the best pizza I've had in this town.
Might be some fighting words, but all right.
Yeah, it's Detroit style. It's Detroit style. I'm more of a New York guy, but Detroit, I will say they have killed the game, and it's fantastic. I like the sound is good. That's a really good music venue. I've seen some really cool bands there already. It's always a free gig, so everything there is free.
Remember the Shark Club?
The show we have coming up is February 24th.
Right.
I have Epic 18, solid band from LA. They're a solid, like, kind of Spanish punk ska band from LA. We have Robert Stokes playing with them, and then we have a couple others being added to that night. I'm also doing a St. Patty's Day show, and with some really cool bands coming to town. A band called Last Real Hero. They're kind of a superhero themed ska punk band. And then we have a show the following week on February 24th. I'm sorry, March 24th, which is going to be a band called The Amalgamated, which is a fantastic band. And I'm just excited to, trying to show people new music and trying to show some underground bands to these people that haven't seen them. So far, I've gotten people that have listened to my show to come out, and the ones that go, I've never heard of that band or seen that band, and they check them out and they've bought all the merch.
I love hearing that. All
know,
right, man. Well, I thank you for coming on. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for constantly promoting what we do. And every chance I get, I'm going to promote what you do. So this will not be, like I said before to my previous guest, this will not be the last time me and you are on the same screen. So anytime you want to come on here to promote anything, you just let me know and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, same with my show, brother. You're always welcome on anytime. You could come be my regular guest. I don't care. Like, come hang out.
Hey.
Hell yeah.
Be careful what you wish for. All right, man. I will see you around sooner than later.
All right, brother. All right,
thanks. All right, so like I said, this is not a usual show where I can jump onto the chat a lot. I have Fade. He's running the chat. He's interacting with you guys right now, but a lot of stuff has gone on in the last couple of weeks that I have not been able to hit on, and this is a show that I want to hit on. As you know, I am a wrestling psychopath. There are others out there that are worse and more in deep than I am that I'm not even close to, but for my circle, I'm pretty much up there. I'm the guy who stays up 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning to watch live matches on the other side of town, on the other side of the world. And like I said, my wingman when it comes to wrestling is Armando Aguilar. How are you doing?
Oh, man. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. I'm excited. Just getting into the new year and just trying to keep everything new, keep everything fun. So I don't want to slow down, because when you slow down, people start dropping dead.
Oh God, it's a weird time to say that, dude.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. And I say it because of that, because of, like I said, 54 is not old. I mean, we're losing people in their 60s, and Jeff Beck, meningitis, bam, gone. I'm like,
oh, he was I think he was 78. So
78.
But still, man, like it's
that ain't like the end of life, though. I mean, I got it's just all of it coming at you at once. It reminds me of 2016, where every time I woke up, I'm like, oh no, what celebrity's gone now? I'm like, oh no, but now, like I said, I'm just, it's not even about a number anymore. It's about what you are getting out of what you're doing. Because I know people, John Williams, composer, is 90. He's never going to retire.
No.
He's doing what he likes. So that's me. Yeah, but it's been a interesting week in wrestling, though. What the fuck is going on with Vince McMahon from your point of view? I want to hear this from you because I've been waiting to hear what you had to say about it.
I think it's pretty simple, man. Like you got this guy, right, who's how old is Vince? 77, 78? And
yeah.
what has he done his whole life? Has he ever he's never played an instrument, right? He's not the kind of guy who's going to learn a hobby. He works out and he watches WWE. That's all he cares about. So what do you expect from him, right? Like he wants to get back in the mix, and the only way he can do it is by holding the company hostage over a sale. And our friend Monkey Jeebus here says Vince wants control again. That's exactly what it is. Like he wants to run the ship. Like whether, and I know that Hunter, what Hunter said at the talent meeting, he was saying that nothing's going to change. He's not going to be part of creative. I just don't buy it, dude. I don't.
Think he's out sleeping with somebody that doesn't really agree with him about that. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah, right.
I commend him for putting on being a professional. I mean, that's what I expect a professional soldier to do.
Yeah.
Listen, when it comes to Vince McMahon, I am not going to dispute his place in wrestling lore, wrestling history. He is on Mount Rushmore. He is on there.
The guy for many years, like I know, like the term genius gets thrown around way too much in this world, but he was a legit genius when it came to the wrestling business at one point. But his problem is he hasn't realized that the business has passed him by now, and he needs people who are younger and wiser and hipper to come in and really steer the creative, which he hasn't done in forever.
He hasn't done, in my opinion, it's been a long time so where he's done anything that would put him on that Hall of Fame. Previous, my childhood and going up to a certain point, undisputed, he's earned that. It's like Al Davis. Al Davis ran the Raiders, and there was a certain part of time where Al Davis automatic Hall of Famer, but nothing Al Davis did in the last 25 years of his life revolutionized or did anything. If you would have just looked at the last 20 some odd years of Al Davis, you'd have been like, wow, how did you even get this team?
Well, but, and imagine if you work at WWE, right? And if you're being a talent is one thing, and like they're not doing its best for business, and they might sell to the Saudis. And imagine like the talent aside, right? Because at the end of the day, like I want the talent to succeed and make money, no matter who it is. I don't care if I like them as a performer or not. I want all these guys in the business to make money. But imagine you're just an office worker, and now this person who obviously has a background of toxicity is back as the executive chairman. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
And I feel like you're not going to feel that good, man. Like you're just not.
Yeah. And with Tony, like I said, I love the AEW product. I know there's issues with Tony Khan, but the one thing about it is a lot of people with Triple H in charge were seeing WWE as another viable place to go if they didn't want to work, AEW. I'm wondering what they're thinking right now.
Well, not only that, right? You have the problem with AEW, and I said this before, is that they have like, and it's kind of a dumb problem to have when you have so much talent that you can't get them all.
Is what it's called.
Yeah, you can't get them all on TV. And that's really their tough part. But I also think one of their fallacies is they have this dark and they have dark elevation, and they should be making those really like B and C shows where you still have like, if you're going to put the House of Black on there, have them in a good match for a reason, have angles and stuff like that. But that's another story. But I do think though, like with Triple H in charge, you had guys like Ricochet, guys in AEW like Darby Allin or Jungle Boy, who Vince is going to take one look at and be like, look at this small little fucker. I'm not going to push him, to where now they actually have an opportunity to be pushed.
Those guys, Vince, if you're watching the show, that's hilarious. I'm going to sit him down and I'm going to show him the Joe and Darby match. They made that match work, in my opinion.
That was good. That was great. That was a great match.
Yeah, so for Vince, I'm like, dude, I'm gonna like Clockwork Orange. I'm gonna open your eyes with the toothpicks and all that. You're gonna watch this match, and then you can see that this works. These guys can make those matches work. Joe made that match work. Darby made that match work. And there's a big significant size and style difference, right? But
Joe, I was really, because I heard that I heard that what's his name? Fuck, dude, my brain isn't working very great tonight. I'm getting over a fucking
Jim
a
Cornette.
cold. No, I'm getting over a respiratory. I had a sinus infection. I'm just getting over.
Uh,
But anyhow, when Joe beat Wardlow, I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you beating Wardlow? He made that work. Like, I want Wardlow to get his revenge now. And that's, but again, getting off topic though, with Vince, like I think Vince needs to be out of the business. He's done terrible things. He's holding the company hostage. And I think the company getting sold to the Saudis, a lot of people are going to get paid. And again, I want those people to get paid, but I do think that it's going to be bad for the business in the long run. Like, what happens to Sami Zayn if it's owned by Saudi Arabians? And it's scary to think, but
well, and for a woman, if you want to be your character, you don't want to have to do the kind of limitations that they're going to put on you. Like I said, I'm not knocking the Saudi culture. That is culture what it is, but it just doesn't mix well with what modern day wrestling is, especially on a global scale. So
if we can pivot just a little bit, speaking of women, did you see that? I just watched it, that the no holds barred women's match over on AEW Rampage.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel.
I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was great.
A lot of blood, dude.
I don't care, dude. Like, if you don't care if a man bleeds, you shouldn't care if a woman bleeds on TV.
I'm okay with blood. I just don't want it to be like every. It's like, like the glass, the tubes, the glass light tubes.
Oh, dude, I think sure. I hate light tubes because they actually are legit dangerous. Like, people got people getting hit in the head of them is usually okay, but I think, like, let's be honest, dude, getting hit in the head of the light tube. Well, it's not safe, but it also isn't gonna hurt. Like, I look at and I also hate, like, in death matches when, like, they stack light tubes on some. It's obvious that people are you know what I mean? Like, the guy's laying there for 15 minutes while someone sets up like a Lego contraption, and I'm just like, come on. What I do like is when they did this no holds barred match, when they do like a lot of money with the men, is it's like a fight. It should be a no holds barred match. Should just be a fight that happens to have weapons.
Yeah, legit no hold bars.
Yeah, like I just want to see people beating the fuck out of each other. I don't need it. I don't need a crazy dangerous spot. I just need it to be dangerous. Not be dangerous. Sorry, need it to look brutal, look physically brutal.
I like the match. Each other. I like the match. I really, really did like that. Like I said, AEW is one of those shows to where a lot of matches, a lot of shows I'll watch, and there's some dead matches sometimes. Lately, there hasn't been a dead match. And remember when I said the best of 7, I thought this is stupid.
Me too.
This is going to turn something good into something that people are tired with.
Me too, and I was wrong.
Holy shit! I was so happy I was wrong. All the matches, but this last one, dude, when he does that inverted whatever into that ladder, I'm like, okay, I know you're here to entertain me, but you need to be able to work the next day. They sold everything. I am a born again believer again in Kenny Omega's ability to just do a lot of stuff to his body, and I'm happy to see him at 100% or whatever 100% is. But those matches were great. Those titles mean something, because I was like, oh, trios, okay, they've made those titles mean something. Death Triangle is fucking great.
Oh, Death Triangle is so good.
Like, done their bit.
I love the whole gimmick with the hammer. I still remember. I think it was like Phoenix was asking, like, why did you use a hammer? And Pac's responses, I'm a bastard. I'm like,
yeah. I remember that. And then when they were hitting him on the hand, hitting the ladder with it, I mean, like I said, they sold in each of those matches, and it actually, and I'm not even a gimmick wrestling guy. The matches actually went to a different level when Kenny Omega's like, okay, no disqualification, we're gonna change this up. And like I said, I thought it brought all of those guys to a different level on national TV.
Yeah, definitely.
I was 100% wrong about them getting tired of that. I did not. I was okay with it. And like I said, just Kenny, just to be able to watch Kenny Omega, as far as American wrestlers that are on American TV, he's got to be near the top as far as, like, I'm getting my money's worth on free TV when he's on there. So I am, and the Young Bucks. I've taken the Young Bucks for granted, because there's just always been at a certain level. This last year or so, especially with the previous match when they did the finals of that tournament where they won the titles to begin with, that match was great.
Yeah.
Right? This last match that they put on TV, that was on TV.
Well, you have, and look at the stables you have, right? And I know a lot of people get on AEW for the stables, but that's what's funny is, like, Japan has done that forever. Like, even back like in the early 90s, when you had, you know, the stables. Dude, I forgot the name, so I'm gonna butcher them, but in All Japan, Tenru and Tawe were a stable, and you had the it was Gordy and Hanson and Williams were like some violent murderers or miracle violence connection. And then you had like the new generation. I forgot they called them like generation something or revolution, which was Kawada, Kobashi, Masawa. So it's always been a thing being done in Japan. And I kind of like it because even if you're stable, it doesn't mean you guys always have to wrestle together. It just means that you watch it as backs. And that's kind of cool. But I think you have the man, I want to see the Elite versus fucking the House of Black. I want to see the Elite versus the Best Friends again. I want to see fucking Jungle Boy and Hook get a third person and go for him. You know who else I want to see get a shot? Because you know who else I was wrong about in AEW? I'm willing to admit I was wrong. Is JE double F JA double R E double T. Jeff Jarrett has very much overperformed in this role.
Okay, I will agree with that. Doesn't mean
can we talk about that rap video with Sanjay Dutt? Was like the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. With Sanjay Dutt doing the terrible rap and Jeff Jarrett just standing in the background, mean mugging the camera.
I am enjoying the back and forth with the Acclaimed and all that because the Acclaimed is just finding ways to be offensive every time they come over one of these raps, and it's hilarious.
Oh my god!
You guys are gonna get, when I start hearing them getting bleeped out, I'm like, okay, that's like you probably reached that limit. Now I'm wondering what it is, but so far so good. I've enjoyed them. It's been a good time because, like I said, now you can watch all this stuff. But AEW just puts on a good show, and they put on shows, like I said, that you could probably get good money off of, and certain pay-per-view dollars on streaming dollars. But they put on pay-per-view level matches, and WWE does to a certain extent, but it's not.
WWE does, and again, like I hate. Again, I've said this before, and I've been on that I don't watch a ton of WWE, and it's really not because I hate the company. It's just because of my time. I have a limited amount of time I can watch wrestling, and I just focus on stuff that's fun to me. And WWE just built up so much bad will for me because I kept getting behind someone and they would just pull the rug out. And for a little bit, AEW kind of did that too, to be honest with you, with like some of the guys that seem like they're elevating and then just suddenly stop pushing. I'm like, what the fuck? I wanted to see that person do better. But I really like what they've done recently with I really love what they've done recently with they're pushing Jungle Boy, which is great. They're pushing Hook, which is great. They're pushing MJF, obviously, but Ricky Starks is coming up. Like Ricky Starks is fucking awesome. Like turn the corner with me with that promo he did on MJF. And
that promo. I think I texted you about that when that promo came out. I really love.
If we can get to this chat real fast, there's a lot of good questions on here. Yeah, but Monkey, you said AEW stories are too fast, and I have to 100% disagree with you there because like the Hangman page and the Elite story is still going on in my opinion. Like I think, but I will say there are some feuds that do kind of go too quick, but I think for their major feuds, they've done just very, very long-term feuds. And even some like the Wardlow MJF feud, which was a slow burn, almost went too long actually. But actually the more I think about it, I can see your point of it too. So Jeff Jarrett looks good and can still wrestle for his age. And that fake pin with the dusty finish was amazing. Like that was so awesome. That crowd was pissed when they thought that Jarrett and Lethal won the tag belts.
Yeah, that they really got into it. I thought there was going to be garbage stone, but there might have been some. I just didn't see it on TV.
Jarrett proves that, like, God, that old school like heel wrestling style still works, and it still makes for a great.
MJF, and dude, MJF stays in character. You go to get a signing from him. He's not Mark. He stays in character,
which is fine. But what I think is going to happen with MJF is that he does, and this is not a knock on him. It's just he's a really young wrestler. I forgot. I think sometimes
24 years old.
If you can put Aaron's quote up here on the screen, Aaron just had the quote of the day. But
William, I'm a woman. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and this is just like it's now. I think, and I don't know if this is right of me or not to think this way. I think like if it's a man punching a woman in the face and busting her open, it's going to be kind of. It's not. I'm not going to feel okay about that. But when women fight and want to go out there and have a kick-ass match, who are we to say, oh no, I don't want to see women do that? It's like for the longest time, Dana White didn't want women in the UFC because he thought people aren't going to want to watch the women. No, like fucking women are talented. They're just as talented as the men are, and they should be able to do their shit.
The Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match was what broke it through for me. I'm like, okay, I want more of this.
Great. Oh fuck, they had some great matches. Some more stuff up here. Just some good. I'm just gonna go back here and look up because there's some good stuff up here. Oh, someone talking about FTR leaving W. I don't know if FTR is going to leave. I think FTR is going to go back to the independents and wrestle less. Like those guys, it doesn't matter. They deserve to do whatever they want to do. They had one of the best years of a tag team in the history of professional wrestling. And
they're going to go. No, I think they can go. I think they. And the reason why it's not is I think they're going to go to Impact, and here's why. I think they could 50-50 because of the other dates. Because of the other dates. Because anywhere else, if they go back to WWE. Especially under Vince, you can't go to New Japan. You can't go to these other places. If they're going to leave AEW, where they have it set up to where they can go to New Japan, but Impact, like I said, it's a shoebox organization, but it allows them the freedom to go to all these other places for as long as they want to, and still come back to a decent sized baseline paycheck.
That's true. And even wanting to go back to WWE, like it wouldn't upset me, right? As their kids get older.
Well, they want that money. They want that. I don't mind. That's a business decision. I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering, do you want to do that now?
They're just best for them. They've had such a great year. Like I still think it was a miss by Tony Khan for not putting the AEW titles on them and having them like Ultimo Dragon come out with all the belts. But they're just, God damn it, those guys are good. I finally watched that dog collar match with the Briscoes, and
dude, I watched that live.
That blew me out of the water. That blew me out of the water.
The one where they Aussie Open, dude. Their match with Aussie Open.
Oh, Aussie Open, unreal. And, I was actually, and I hate to say this, I was disappointed a little bit with their match on Wrestle Kingdom, which I just watched today. But I think it was because like you can just tell, man, like, hey, both those guys, Dax and Cash. I think Dax gets a lot of the attention, but Cash can fucking go. That guy's amazing.
Did you hear what he said after the match?
Huh?
Did you hear the travel that they had to go through the schedule just to
I heard about that. But Dax, dude, the dude's obviously really hurting pretty bad. Like he should take some time off and rest up.
And they said they're going to take some time and make a decision on April.
Clinton up here doesn't like wrestling talk, which I respect. But if there's something else you want me to talk about, I can talk about metal or horror.
He's screwing with me. He works for me. He knows what we're talking about.
But I'm also always down to talk music or horror because I have thoughts on the previous guy talking about music. Not that I like his talk, but there's a lot of good new music out. There's a lot of great creative music. It's just not slapping you in the face in the mainstream or on any, even like you can't find the stuff I listen to on the radio, sadly. You got to go out and seek it, which makes it difficult. But I get it. I'm not gonna.
Well, it goes full circle because that's what Rock Avenue initially did when it came out. So
I put in the chat. So back when I was like 11 and 12, dude, 91.5 at 2 a.m, used to have an extreme metal show that just ran across one day when I was staying up late.
We were talking about that the night I listened to that.
So there's two. There's one at 2 a.m. and one at 3 a.m. The one at 2 a.m. I forgot the lady's name that ran it, and she was fucking awesome. And that was a more extreme metal. And then 3 a.m. was a Brain Pain, which would play like Pantera and Sepultura. But the 2 a.m. one, dude, like I got turned on to so many extreme metal bands because of that. Like that literally changed my life. That's when I first heard Dark Throne, first heard like some the Norwegian black metal, and man, made me get really deep into it.
Because I remember it was one of those shows with a Holy Roller who I got a chance to meet. He hosted a lot of these shows because when I worked for the Las Vegas Thunder, for those of you who don't remember, that was our first professional hockey team. It was on the UNLV grounds, and we would walk over to KNULV, and we would sit in on Rock Avenue. We would sit in on all the stuff, and we would talk with these guys off air. And that's how I got exposed to a lot of different music that I would not have even given 2 minutes to. I mean, that's why when he brought Rock Avenue back, I reached out to Josh and I got to have you on my show, dude, because this is like full circle. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the music, and like I said, when I was growing up in LA, the music scene wasn't segregated like it was when I first got here. You didn't matter what kind of culture you came from. If you listen to the music, especially when it was heavy metal, we were all a bunch of outcasts no matter what. So when we found each other, it didn't matter whether you were Asian, Mexican, black, didn't matter. If you liked Blackened, then you were a part of that group. Then you got a tape. The next day, some dude made a tape for you with all the tapes, all the stuff on it. That's why when people ask me what my favorite Metallica album was, I couldn't tell them for a long time because the way I was intaking it. Well,
the tape that Jim gave me is my favorite album. Like,
yeah, I would get Justice for All on the same, and the next song was literally Master of Puppets. So I couldn't tell you for a long time what my favorite album was. I just had these twists, and dude, I would listen to the shit out of those tapes. So they would stretch. That's because that's all I had back then. But
another great thing he brought up. Yeah. And Larry, I want to get your comment you just made about metal being extremely inclusive. I have a lot of thoughts on that, which just make me angry.
I'm living proof.
But another point that that Josh brought up is about, like, talking about these albums and how people just know the hits. And it's like that a lot now with modern music, whereas there's actually a very I read the word inclusive. I thought he said exclusive, because there are a lot of groups.
I'm living proof that it is.
Because, man, there's so many groups. So, like, again, like I'm in like the really underground black metal shit where people want to be fucking gatekeepers for this stuff, and people want to be like, oh, you like this band? Well, you should have heard this band. They did it better in 1992. It's like, who gives a shit? Like, people can discover music and like it, and everyone should be part of this. And like you said, there's no place for fucking. Oh, it's funny, the idea behind like black metal and being like, everyone's like, oh, it's about hatred and evil. We should be hatred and evil. Well, no, it's about getting that shit out of your system, not about hating other people who just want to love the same form of art you do. Same thing about pro wrestling. Like, fucking all these assholes that no offense if anybody on here is a big fan of Jim Cornette, but fucking like Jim Cornette fans who always want to be like, oh, AEW sucks. Well, no, fuck you. Who gives a fuck, dude? Like, I don't care if you like it or not. People are allowed to like things. Like, you don't have to understand it. Like,
listen, I grew up with Jim Cornette. I grew up with Jim Cornette being the
Jim Cornette, as a manager and as a historian, is a genius.
He's getting on my nerves lately.
And a couple of things here. Our friend Darth is correct in that Ride the Lightning is the best Metallica album.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Hey, thank you for coming on to the stream. But we have a blasphemy rule when you say shit like that. No, it is fucking not the best album. You said that on my show,
dude. I said that on my podcast too, because I'm fucking right.
Is there lightning? You should be struck by lightning for that comment. Hey, the views of Armando Agar do not represent the views of Poindexter Mound or the Sci-Fi Center, and they damn sure don't represent mine. You kid, not with Injustice for Law. If Justice for Law just was wiped from existence, no, I'm not even giving my.
Hold on, this shit, dude. Hold on, dude. And Justice for All is arguably the third best Metallica album at best.
What is your number one? Oh, I already know what your mistake.
Oh, dude, it's for me, legit. It's Ride, Master of Puppets, and then Kill 'Em All. No, sorry, not Kill 'Em All. Sorry, actually, Justice above Kill 'Em All, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with Injustice for All. It's a fucking great album.
It's three great albums. So yeah,
it's a great album.
I happen to hear this from backstage. Ride the Lightning is not the best album.
The older I get,
you guys can be wrong. It's okay.
It is black. The Black album is the best.
I mean, the older I get, the more I appreciate Justice for All. And like I said, it's not a bad. We're not talking about like horrible albums in between. It's just like there's a mecca. I actually put, in my opinion, I know this is going to be blasphemy the other way, I love the Black Album.
I mean, I've fallen out of love with it, and to be honest with you, back in '91, that was the first metal album. Second metal album I ever bought. My first was Injustice for All because they were out of the Black Album at Walmart, so I bought Injustice for All. But I don't think there's anything wrong with that record. I think at this point, like, it's just one of those things where you have people that want to kick it, because if you grew up on that, it's going to hit different than someone who discovered it, in 2000 or 2010 after they'd already heard all the old stuff.
Yeah. Man, because I remember the Black Album because that was the first concert I went to for them. I went to the Guns N' Roses. Use Your Illusion and the Black Album. They were released the same year, so I went and got. And guess who opened up for those two guys?
I don't remember. Pearl Jam. I don't know.
Okay, I do. You're flirting with Extinction here. Motorhead.
Oh shit.
Motorhead. That was the first and only time I got to see Motorhead, and I really didn't appreciate what I was seeing at the time because obviously the two bands that were there, Rob Halford was there for Fight.
That's sick.
It was at the Rose Bowl, October 1992. I will never forget it. It was before I went to basic training. But yeah, there's no really bad. Even the stuff that they've released later on, I haven't been too much of a fan on. But all that means is there's going to be another Metallica tour, and they're going to play the old shit. So if you don't like Saint Anger, okay, that's great. But guess what? That you're getting your money's worth. And when I go they go to the point where I'm like, dude, these old men they're going to go forever. And I'm like, okay, you're getting that dollar. That's the one thing about when I go to see them in concert, I've never felt like shit. I feel cheated. No.
Oh, dude, like when I saw them when they played out here, like 4 years ago, maybe. And I figure I'll see them one more time for fun. And you want to know what? They played like shit. They played fucking terrible. And I had the best time. It was still a fucking great time. They still played their asses off. They just don't play that great. I blame Lars, but I still had a great time.
I remember when Lars, we were talking about it the other day, where Lars, a lot of people were showing shit at him 2 decades ago when it came to Napster. And where I sort of agreed with him, I felt myself in a spot where I understood where he was coming from. But if it weren't for bootlegs and things like that, I would not have gotten to the point where I would have bought his music and gave him, t-shirt money, concert money, and buying his albums legit. If there wasn't a doorway into it, I don't know if I would have been able to,
So, Larry, I have not seen that YouTube channel, but I need to look at that YouTube channel. That sounds pretty awesome, actually. One thing about Napster, and this is why I can't really get shitty with I can't be mad at Metallica about it, is Metallica is one of the few bands that actually makes a good percentage off the albums they sell. So for them, like those albums being downloaded by Napster, I get it. Like they're actually losing money. But do you know what Iron Maiden did about Napster and about Kazan, about live streaming, Livewire and all that shit?
Yeah, LimeWire.
Do you know how they handled it?
How?
So they actually hired people to figure out like where most of their downloads are coming from, and then started playing shows in those areas and made a shitload of money from the live shows and the merchandise sales.
That's how it should have gone. And getting at that time in the early 2000s, getting sponsors and stuff on board to make up the bulk of, get your own streaming services. Get the RIA should have gotten their own thing and had it backed by corporate people to where they could have been the ones capitalizing on it. I thought they missed out on opportunities. Sometimes they could have done it some other way, but I thought that at that point I'm like, dude, I don't even know who you are without.
Well, and the reason why like smaller artists will never be mad about that, because I can even point back to when I was in a band when I was younger, and we made way more fucking money if you bought a t-shirt or a ticket to see us play than you would have if you bought our album.
Yeah, because you got the cut, you got all of it.
Yeah, because like a lot of people don't realize this. Basically, like if the label agrees to give you $5,000 to record an album, what it is they'll pay to record the album, and they'll give you a little bit of money, and then you don't start getting, and then they'll give you, say, all right, cool, you get 50 cents from every album you sell. So now I owe the record company back $5,000.
Yeah.
So until I sell enough records to cover that $5,000. And when I say sell enough records, I just sell enough records out of my 50-cent cut. So I just sell 10,000 records before I see $1 of any kind of money from the art, from the record sales. So most artists, but nowadays with a lot of bands being very smart and doing small self-releases and making, again, like, dude, like most modern bands don't make a living off their music, sadly. But it's a little bit, it's a very, very different playing field now. But that piece, I understand Metallica getting mad about.
I understood both sides. I just thought it was unfortunate that it was a bad look. Getting back to wrestling, now that it took you 12 years to view this due to illness and old age, but you just watched Will Ospreay versus Kenny Omega.
Yeah. Okay, dude, that match is fucking great. Like, I know a match is great when I've been sitting there and I've been watching it for 25 minutes and didn't realize I was watching it for 25 minutes because they did a 25-minute call. I'm like, what the fuck? I've been sitting here watching wrestling for that long. The match was wonderful. And here is the craziest part about it is they definitely held back. Yeah. Like they're definitely holding back for the rematch. And I'm like, what the fuck are they going to do? And although there were some dangerous spots, they wrestled it like a classic heavyweight title match with everyone just doing. Ospreay is so much coming to his own as a heavyweight wrestler and wrestling a more methodical, story-driven style. And he's even better because of it. So I gotta say,
the one where I shook and I'm like, where the inverted DDT on the ring post where his head hit the ring post.
Oh yeah,
he rolls out of the ring. I legit was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning, whatever it was. I'm like, please move a little bit. Please move your arm. Please move your leg. Please let me know. And I'm serious. Please let me know that you're not paralyzed right now.
You know, it's funny though. I rewound it and it looked super safe. Like it was perfect. It was so perfect how good they did that.
Yeah, watching it live, I'm like, oh no.
And watching it recorded, I was still terrified. I knew he survived the match, obviously, because I'd have heard if he died in the ring.
Yeah, I was like, I'm like, dude, and when he rolls out of the ring and his body was limp like that for so long, I'm like, just twitch a little bit. I know it's all safe, but just let me. And then we started getting up. I'm like, and then the match kept going up from there. I'm like, how can you? Dude, you know, a lot of guys will pull back when they hit a high spot like that. They did not. I mean, it was
so. My one, and this is not a knock on the match or anything, but a lot of times, you know, I'll hear because it's man, this with my current job. Like I was actually in Virginia working, so you know the show didn't start till 3 a.m. Virginia time. I'm not fucking staying up that late when I have to be at work at 6 a.m. in the morning, obviously. But so I already had heard from everybody and from you like how insane of a match it was, right? Yeah. So and it always happens whenever I hear this, I start watching. I'm watching like this is good. This is good. We'll see though. But then by the end, when I just I've forgotten everything about the world except for the match I'm watching, I'm like, fuck, that was awesome.
Yeah, that promo he did at the press conference.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I need to see that then.
Dude, his 2 promos, and he didn't cut a lot of promos to lead up to this match. The one that he cut right after, and the one I sent you, the one he cut right after that Kenny Omega announced the match on the big screen, and he goes back right to that back room where they do their interviews. He cuts one of the better promos that I've heard in a long time. And then the one prior to where they do the face off, he cuts another one because Kenny Omega played this perfectly.
Oh, Kenny playing heel in that match is so good.
Perfectly. And the lead ups and the whole thing, like, you know, you're not me. And then, you know, you've always been looked at, and it was a lot of it was real, but they did it. Like I said, watch the day before press conference, the January 3rd press conference. And if you weren't rooting for Will Ospreay at that point, as somebody who watches him on a regular basis and then watched what he had to go through the last 2 years through COVID, and then Kenny Omega is like, you know, you're playing in matches when nobody's even cheering. He's like, he's like, I had to watch somebody die on a screen. I had to say goodbye to them on a screen because of COVID. I couldn't even travel. And then you took a big check and you went. I mean, it was intense.
Yeah.
And like I said, it made me, you know, I was already going to watch that match, but then the match was about to, you know.
I don't know if you know the story, but I thought it was really cool with Ospreay using the Styles Clash in the match, because there was a story about Kenny Omega when he was coming up. And he was debating just stopping pro wrestling to be an MMA fighter because he trained in jiu-jitsu and trained in boxing. I think maybe Muay Thai as well. And he had a match with AJ Styles. And he was talking to AJ after the match and was basically like, yeah, I think I'm going to give this up and go be an MMA fighter. And Styles goes, no, because you're good at this and you're going to be great at this. Like, keep doing this. Yeah, and then the fucking ending of that match. I didn't know what the ending was. I always make sure, like, yeah, I heard it was a great match. You know, everyone, you know, granted, unless you stay off social media or don't talk to anybody for weeks, you're going to find out who won the match. I knew who won the match. I didn't know the finish. And when he sets him up for the Kamagoye, which is Ibushi's finisher, and just Will Ospreay's dying and he spits blood at Kenny, like, I can't fight this, but fuck you. Oh, dude, gave me goosebumps. I was like, that's such a perfect ending to the match.
It was like I said, every bit of the match. And when the match was over, I had to decompress. And it's a damn shame. My apologies to Okada and Jay White for having to literally immediately follow that match.
Imagine having to ask, like, how do Okada and Jay White follow this? Because those guys are two of the best in the world. And
that match was great, but it wasn't what I mean. It's sad. It's like WrestleMania 3 where you have Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon, and that, even the guys backstage were like, that was the match of the night. And and there's a Hulk Hogan body slamming Andre the Giant. But yeah, to come on, that's where I would have been like, you know what? I'm not all for the 2-night format all the time, but I would have given 5. I would have found, and they're going to do another one on the 21st. But I'm like, dude, that would have been what you should have done.
Yeah. Well, they had to do Okada closing the show out because it was an Inoki tribute show. Yeah. So and Okada is kind of the modern day Inoki, so they had to do that. But I think under any other year where Inoki doesn't die, I think you put Ospreay and Omega as a main event.
Yeah, and I need that next match. I have a feeling that next match could take place on AEW TV.
Well, the other thing they've done too is like now you have Omega with the U.S. Championship, and this is kind of like what they did with back in the day when you had Nakamura as a never champion. Now you can headline any event with this belt, and it means everything.
Yeah,
which is super smart.
Yeah, and the matches are who's he talking to? League of Channels. Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I don't know who are you talking to, Larry, because I haven't been paying attention to the chat. Sorry. If you've got a channel, Armando, let me know. You can put it in the private chat.
I don't have. I'll link it, but if you guys want to hear me get drunk and talk about horror, I do a podcast called Dads from the Crypt, where we basically review every Tales from the Crypt episode in order. We got through season 5, and we're taking a small little break to do Cabinet of Curiosities, which has been a fucking blast, by the way. It's such a great show.
Yeah, it's like I said, I watched that match. I was like, I was gonna text you then, but I'm like, God, 6 a.m. in the morning. I'm not gonna do that. But I sent a delayed text for you though. I sent a delayed text to send it to you. So that
it's all good.
It's all delayed. So I'm like, I'm gonna set it for 9 o'clock.
Well, I was working in Virginia, so I was 3 hours ahead. Like I'm usually up by 5:30. Anyways, man, like.
But yeah, I've become. I realize I've looked at my life and realized what kind of wrestling fan I grew up as. I'm far worse now. I am far more. I am far more involved now than I ever was as a child. Oh my goodness!
I think I was thinking about these the other day because on Dave Meltzer's podcast they're talking about all the great wrestling you can just see at your fingertips right now on a weekly basis. And I still remember when I was a kid and there's a WWE Superstars, or maybe it was a Raw from like 93 or 92 maybe, and it was the Macho Man Randy Savage was the world champion, and he was going to have a match with IRS, and that was a big fucking deal because the Macho Man, the world heavyweight champion, was going to be wrestling on free television.
Yeah,
and nowadays it's like I get to see these unbelievable 5-star matches just for free on a random Wednesday. And going back to random Wednesday,
5-star. He gave it what, 6.5? I think he gave it.
I don't know, dude. I think 6.25 or something like that. And again, people get mad about Meltzer star ratings, but Meltzer's always like, look, if you don't agree with me, that's cool. If you do, that's cool too. Like whatever you gave it is what it is. Like my ratings don't matter. He's always like anything I give above a 4 is a great match.
But I thought about him when I'm watching this match. I'm like, if this dude doesn't give this one of his top ones, and then if you look at it, because he's only got like 2 for the year so far, it's that one. And guess what the other one is? The ladder match, the one that just happened with the trios.
It was very good. That was a very good match. But I'll tell you what, dude, like, again, like, dude, that show on Wednesday, opening up with Hangman versus Moxley, which is awesome. And then in Konosuke Takeshita versus Bryan Danielson, which was fucking awesome. And then I love.
Don't sleep on that guy.
Dude, no, he's gonna be a big star.
Yeah. And
then the tag match with Jungle Hook was awesome. For what it was what it needed to be.
Yeah, it's a setup. It was a setup situation. It's getting you more used to hooks. I was cold on Hook at first. I'm like, nepotism, great wrestling. I've never had that before. As I get to watch him, though, I get to more appreciation.
But again, though,
kid, you know.
Again, though, Taz didn't do anything for Hook except for be there. Like Hook got over on his own because everyone started joking, like send Hook out there because he's in the background eating Doritos, and it turned into like an organic thing. They're like, well, now we got to make this guy fucking wrestle, and he's good at it. But I will say one of my favorite moments in the history of AEW, and it wasn't on TV, they posted it on Twitter, was Hook coming out first match and Taz clapping, and you can see he's almost crying.
Oh, yeah.
And it felt good, man. Like you can tell Taz is happy. William, I have to leave you here in a moment because it's getting late. But I want to bring up a couple things here. Someone brought up in Lucha, they have women wrestle men all the time. They do that a lot on the indies nowadays. And what I really love about it is that they always present the woman as the equal of the man. Like it's a fight. They're both wrestlers, they're both technical, and they fight. Like if you guys want to see any of that, a great example is
wrestling.
Oh yeah, dude. Her husband, they're married, right? Her husband. And Clinton and someone has brought up Meltzer Star System. I do have a comment on that too, but it's also like Alley Catch in GCW. GCW does it a lot, or Sawyer Wreck, I think, is the other one. The other lady that wrestles a lot of men, and dude, like they go toe to toe. It's believable, and they have great matches. So I think in modern wrestling, there's definitely a place for intergender matches, especially. And And someone brought up Jade Cargill. Jade Cargill, she's ready to lose, but she's definitely a star. She's going to be the women's star of the future, in my opinion.
Yeah, they need to. I like her. I don't like the whole undefeated thing, the whole Goldberg. I guess.
Yeah, no, it's reached its end point, and I think it should be Willow Nightingale dethroning her. But that's another story. That's a whole nother story. But and then real fast. Clinton over here saying Meltzer made the star system meaningless. He really didn't, but I definitely see where you're coming from, because I think once you break any kind of ceiling, like all you have, right? Like at some point, he's gonna have to give someone an 8-star match if it's better than Okada and Omega. So I definitely see where you're coming from. But I also think that like people give way too much credit to everybody's match ratings, because it's just like, this is one person's opinion. And I think it's funny, as many people that get mad about Meltzer star ratings, he's super like, dude, this is just my opinion. Like when people got mad at him over giving Taker and Michaels 4 3/4 stars, and he goes, if you thought it was fun, the first one. Yeah, I disagree. And he goes, if you thought it was 5 stars, then it's 5 stars. He goes, 4 3/4 means it was awesome. Like, I'm not saying no point in saying it's a bad match, but Clint, I do get what you're coming from with that. And last but not least, it's very important that I say this, and that is fuck the Seahawks. Thank you, 49ers, for putting the Seahawks out to bed. And I'm hoping that we make a Super Bowl run. If we don't, I'm just happy we beat the Seahawks the 3rd time this season.
Oh shit, the Chargers 27-point lead, and they caught that.
Hey, I'm gonna send you a text, William, because I literally called it. Like when they were down at right before they scored that first touchdown before halftime, I texted my buddy Tom. I was like, dude, I said, I just have a feeling this is going to be a comeback. Wow. And talk about shit in the bed, dude. The Chargers played terrible in that second half. They had nothing. And to give Jaguars credit, they played a fantastic second half of football. So it ended up being a fun. It
was a home game, so they really should have done well there. So.
And I will say, if we as a diehard 49ers fan, if we get knocked out of the playoffs next week, I'm allowed to be upset for 1 hour, and that's it. I refuse to let a football game or a sports game mess up my day.
No, I'm not doing that anymore too. I put enough holes and walls in both my home and my house to end the office here to do that. I used to get that angry where, like I said, I'd be watching overtime. I remember I will never forget my other location, 2014. The Kings were up 3-1 against the Chicago Blackhawks for a trip to go to the Stanley Cup, and they blew that lead. And I remember the last game where they tied it 3-3. I legit put a hole through one wall to the other. And at that point, while I had my arm in the wall, I'm like, we're not doing this anymore.
Yeah, you can't be doing that, man. Like,
and this is drive myself into an early grave over some shit I have no control over.
And this is a tip for anybody out there that cares, dude. But like, don't get yourself worked up that much over sports, man. Like, if the 49ers win the Super Bowl this year, am I going to be happy? Yeah. Am I getting a check in the mail? No. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really affect my life. That's my life. But what fucked me up about sports and what gave me trauma is a couple years ago when the Knights were in the Stanley Cup. I think it was the conference finals when we lost to the Sharks after we were up 3-0 and got that shitty major foul. But I still have that trauma of anything can happen at the end of the game. So I don't trust any game until the clock hits 0 anymore.
It is not over until it is over, man.
Dude, I remember I got home from jiu-jitsu. And me and Kel were watching the game, and I was like, "All right, we're up 3 goals. We're up by 3 goals. There's like 5 minutes left. I'm gonna go take a shower." And then or 2 goals. Right when I said that we scored another goal, I yelled, "Fuck the Sharks" down the stairs, as we do in this house. And I wouldn't take a shower. I got to the shower, and I'm like, what happened? Why are we? I thought that the NHL app just had the wrong score.
Yeah, there's no way. There might be no other sports team or very few other things I hate more than the San Jose Sharks because it's a California thing. But the Vegas Knights, and I'm here surrounded by the Vegas Knights, and I am starting to loathe the Vegas Knights because they're a Pacific Division rival. So I'm not supposed to. I'm a Kings fan. I can never Kings.
I can never be a Raiders fan because there's always the Battle of the Bay with the Niners and the Raiders. I can never be a Raiders fan. So I feel you. Yeah. Anyhow, William, thank you so much, man. And, it's always a blast. And once again, if you want to hear me get drunk and talk shit about horror, and usually I also talk a lot of shit about Glenn Jacobs because he's a piece of shit. But you can find me at Dads from the Crypt on all your social media. I think we're Crypt Dads on Instagram. One of those fucking, I don't know. I don't deal with that stuff. But dadsfromthecrypt.com. Find me on all your favorite podcasting apps. We do have some really cool interviews. A lot of really good horror directors. Coming up, we have what's his name? He did the new Firestarter movie. I think he did a couple other things like Keith Thomas, which should be really fun. So check us out. And William, you do great stuff with this channel, man. So
thanks for coming on, man.
And one more thing, I just want to stroke your ego once more, dude. Like, for people who don't know, like, back in the day, how much you've done for this city when it comes to like horror and independent art, independent media, man. Like, you've done a lot, dude. And it's always my hat's off to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey,
Coming from somebody like you who's known me throughout that entire period, that weighs more than a lot.
Dude, I've known you more than half my life at this point. How crazy is that?
Yeah, 2001.
And the first time I met you, I'm like, I hate this guy.
Yeah, and the first time I met you, I'm like, is this guy gonna hurt me? And then, hey, it all turns out well, though. You know, here we are, 23 years later.
Man. Take it easy, brother. Good night.
All right. Thanks for being patient, Thade. I had you in the back for a long time. Yeah. It was an unusual show where there was a lot to talk about and a lot of guests just were available, so I just went with it. How have you been?
Oh, you're good.
Oh, so I've ignored it. Sorry, chat. Thade now has, and I just sent Stella her thing, so she should have.
Yeah, we sent you the wrong email, so you're gonna have to send it to.
I just did. So she should have that now. So I'm just waiting to get her thing to go ahead and give her code. But yeah, the stage for the most part for most of the night has been controlling the chat. That's why you were able to see the chat come up and not me hitting on things. 5,000 minutes later. So hold on. What can I say? Okay, so I'm just waiting for her email to come through. But yeah, man, there's just a lot going on. I mean, by the way, when we do The Last of Us, I won't be able to do it on Sunday night proper. We'll probably have to do it the following Monday night.
Okay.
My schedule, but we'll still be able to review it. It just won't be like Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, where we're like right there. It'll probably be like Monday night instead of having a midnight express or something like that. We'll have a later night. Most of the people that are going to watch it are probably going to watch that on the rewatch anyway. Some of the people won't be able to get to the episode until that Monday. So I'm going to watch the episode when I get home on Sunday night, but I won't be able to, who knows? I'll see how it works out. But I see how late what your availability is also. So, but we'll talk about that offline. But
all right,
let's go. How far in the chat should I go?
Mostly I just showed the good stuff. You got the one super chat that you got.
Okay, so let me just randomly grab that. What's your guys' dream match during WWF the Invasion era? It's never happened. All of them. That Invasion was fucking horrid. Because remember when they did that stupid ass line, they had bought the company, but a lot of the major contracts were not they were Time Warner. All right, so they belonged to AOL. So Vince bought the library and certain contracts, like Goldberg didn't come over, Sting didn't come over, and the Invasion was handled because everybody knew it was a botched sale. Vince had no business owning that. The reason why he owned that, WB, at the time with WB, Time Warner, and Jamie Kellner, I'll never fucking forget his name. He turned down better offers for WCW to be bought. And he thought he was going to get some deal with Vince McMahon, or he was going to get WWE TV on his little fledgling network that he was creating. And that never happened. So other people with better money wanted WCW, but what Jamie Kellner did to get them out of the bidding is he said, okay, we're not going to put WCW on our TV anymore. And then everybody who had good money pulled out. And then Vince was able to buy it for change. If that would happen today, there would be lawsuits today if that were to happen today. So that's why that Invasion angle sucked, because half the damn locker room didn't even come over. So yeah, anybody, because even the ones the people that they had, give me a match that I thought would have worked out, and the matches they gave us were horrible. And that was the decline. The decline started in the '99 era, but after WCW, after that purchase, the decline in WWE's product declined every single year. Not only did it decline on a quality level, health-wise, because people knew that there's no other major wrestling federation to go. So they ran themselves into the ground and doped themselves up on painkillers, and then a lot of those guys aren't with us anymore. So yeah, that whole invasion thing was stupid. But let's see. Metallica, Jan, Slipknot, Deftones. Hey, you know what? Everybody's different. All right, guys, I'm gonna jump around the chat because, like I said, while we had guests, I did not personally get with you. So yes, I am. It's the only Mickey Rourke film I like. Sorry, Mickey Rourke. Do not sell the mouse to the mouse. That will be bad for wrestling. Nah. Who, like I said before, the people who need to buy WWE or Comcast needs them more. The Saudis can purchase them, of course. Comcast, if WWE gets sold outside of Comcast, that means Comcast, who has a library through Peacock right now, who has a pay-per-view through Peacock right now, is going to have to negotiate with someone else, and it might not be in their best interest to keep it. So if anybody's going to keep it, status quo would be the best thing, because I don't think the product's going to improve by being sold to the Saudis. I actually think it's going to create a horrible work situation, and quality situation is going to follow. So it needs to be Comcast. Hell, I know people don't like Disney owning everything, but if there's a line, I would take Disney before I took the Saudis. You know, just my opinion. All right. Fox, not Disney. Okay, this must be a continuation to another. Let's see. All right. All right. Are you going to be interested in? Possibly. I got to see a little bit more of it.
It's the trailer for it was interesting.
I haven't heard of it. Sorry, I'm behind.
It's kind of a found footagey sort of thing.
Uh-oh. Those aren't my favorite, but I'll give it a shot. I mean,
well, I would say I'd find the trailer, but I actually got stuck on my phone, not my computer, so because I opened up the invite for the thing on the phone.
Oh yeah, yeah. This was confusing the way we had to set up, but now that I know how to do it, it'll be a lot easier for us later on, and we'll be able to have both. I think Stella's in the backstage right now, but I don't know if she has control of the chat yet because I didn't see her. I didn't see the thing come up, but we'll get all this together. We'll get our Mickey Mouse organization, and it sounds like you're not echoing anymore, so that's good.
Well, that's because I'm on my phone. I'm not on my mic.
So we know what the problem. Well, we know where the problem is. We just don't know what it is yet. So. I remember.
Okay, Stella says she doesn't. Stella says she doesn't have control. She's in the back chat.
Before the Last of Us show, Stella, I'll get with you offline and I'll get you all the stuff you need. But I know how to do it now, so we'll be able to get it done. I remember us Metallica fans hating when they cut their hair and were played on the radio. Yeah, and that goes back to 1991 too, because 1991. Okay, he just disappeared. 1991, it was when the Black Album came out, and a lot of people thought they sold out. But I'm like, everybody wants to make more money and sell more albums, and I don't think they were still Metallica to me. The songs were shorter, of course, and there wasn't the thing about that I listening to prior Metallica. Other than that, the unproduced sound that they had prior to the Black Album. The production value on the Black Album, the songs I love, but the production value took away that hollow basement punch that their music always had. Because once you started making, there was a lot more money put into the Black Album than any other album that they'd ever done. So, and it was their best-selling album at the time. So let's see. I'll be back. Frogfather and Comic Gate needs me. Oh Lord. We're not ever going to jump into that. Wow, 3 Deftones albums in a row. You're all right, Larry? How's that brain doing, man? That you fry your brain going like that. So,
Larry, are you good, buddy? 3 Deftones albums in the same day? Jesus.
Yeah, Hook was named Rookie of the Year. Hook's actually pretty good, and he actually has good form. Like I said, at first I wasn't on board because, like I said, another kid of a wrestler, third generational. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But in his case, it's working, and he's not. People are a little bit. They're starting to buy into him. So, 4,000. it's different. Looking at anything I've seen, I'm intrigued to see it. Yeah. Does it have like a human centipede vibe? You know, in that one. Also, we'll hear about the reshoots that will be taking place later this month with The Flash with Ezra set to return. Yes, I did hear about those. And be honest with you, they're going to be working on that film until damn near it gets released. And depending on what Gunn is doing and how he's restructuring things, you could be like legit. You could have a test grading where you have one version of the movie a week before the movie gets released, and then you turn around and you have other stuff added. They could add stuff and redo stuff all the way up to the release of the movie. And given the fluid situation of DC, that doesn't surprise me. I hope the changes that they make to any of these movies are for the better. I hope whatever they're doing makes it cohesive with what has gone before, even if it's just to put a credible ending to it. That's all I really want. I would love for them to use these last 4 movies and something else to get us a credible lineage from one thing to the other, not just for Snyder fans, because like I said, we're not owed anything, for their own sanctity and continuity of your product. You don't know who's going to be walking on to your product. These new people you're bringing in, they're not just going to stop with the new stuff you brought out. That would be horrible if you wanted them to. You want them on HBO Max watching Man of Steel. You want them on TNT watching Wonder Woman. You want them on all these platforms, and you want them buying, the collected editions when they hit the store. So, but they're not going to do that if they look at your incomplete, broken up story that you were too lazy to fix. So I hope that whatever reshoots happen are to make things a little bit more coherent and cohesive. That's my goal. All right, so hold on here. I'm getting a text. Sorry, that's the longest I've gone back to back guests like that. So hold on. 30 a.m. All right, so we're just working up. Okay, she got it. Cool, I think she's in. Let me know how you're in, Stella. If you can get the stuff. But if not, like I said, don't worry about it. We'll get it tomorrow night. But yeah, tonight was a weird, different show because, like I said, we spanned a whole bunch of shit. We spanned wrestling, we spanned alternative music, and we spanned some of those Snyder stuff. And like I said, I brought that guy on simply because I don't get the opportunity to necessarily. Dude, what are you guys burning out here? You hear that in the background?
Yeah.
There's been fires all the way around here today. There was 2 fires. They burnt down an old Kmart. Like, what the hell's going on, man? And it's raining. But I wanted to bring him on because since we've done this show, have not had a chance to get anybody from those type of outlets on.
Right.
So and he put it the way he framed his thing. So, it's not just me. A lot of people think, I'm just talking out of my ass. Like, no, I'm not actually. I'm actually thinking about things, and I don't like to put shit out there that I can't explain. But hearing him talk about it, I think helped a lot. And I wanted to have that on there. And then, like I said, I wanted the second half of the show to just be general topics. So anything you guys want to ask or, let's see. Like I said, I did a horrible, I didn't even get, and Mondo probably did a better job glancing towards the chat because I didn't want to lose focus. So, and I wanted to see if I could keep myself on time. So
Yeah.
one into another. So I didn't want to, I've never had that before. So this is new to me. Been on the air for almost a year now, or 7 months, 8 months, but having multiple guests on there. And I didn't want to put them all on the screen because not everything it wasn't all, overlapping. So let's see. I used to work in a music store. We couldn't keep enough copies of the Black Album. Oh, yeah. Black Album was the top. Go ahead, Dave.
Hold on. Okay, Stella says she's in.
Okay, cool. So she can tell her to pull up a chat so I know that she's got it, so that I know she's in control.
Hold on.
Yes.
Yeah. There she does.
Okay. No, that was me.
I think she brought up the Black Dahlia one.
No, that was me.
That was you? Hold on. Let me message her really quick.
All right. Let's see. So yeah, these are the guys we bring on the shows are like, hopefully they're guys that people, women, I don't, who I want to bring in all walks of life because, like I said, I think this format allows for us to bring a lot of different people together. And like I said, even if you're not in Las Vegas, you can hear Mondo, you can hear Josh, you can go to their websites and experience their product and experience what they're doing. this internet thing allows for us to be able to do that. So every time, I mean, you've seen me bring on independent wrestlers. I brought in some independent directors. We're going to have Lloyd Kaufman here next month. He'll probably be sitting next to me on one of these streams. At the end of the year. So we're going to be working on that. We got a lot coming up, but like I said, I am trying to. I may have came into this format via the whole Snyder stuff, but I'm going to use it for a whole bunch of other stuff, man. I mean,
okay, William. Fourth says that the guy who made Skinamarink has a YouTube channel called Bite Size Nightmares, and it's got a bunch of short films made by him and some other people.
Hey, Fourth, do me a favor, message me or send me that link. Let's see if I can get him on here. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
I've already saved it on my YouTube, so I'll send it to you.
All right, so let's see. All right, did you hear about the reshoots? Did not. Yeah, when it comes to WCW, yeah, because that was when we were full-fledged into the internet, so we were finding out what stuff that was going on. And there used to be a show called WCW Live. Bob Ryder and Jeremy Borash hosted that show, the late Bob Ryder, who helped found TNA. And we would be talking a lot of the backstage stuff. So you were talking directly to people that were bookers and hosts of the shows. And they would always be talking about the stuff that was going on. And that's how we found out that, Vince McMahon's deal offer for WCW was probably the worst of the ones that were on the table.
All right, William, I sent it to your personal Twitter messages.
Okay, great, thanks.
And the trailer for Skinamarink is there on that channel. I just saw it. It's somewhat disturbing.
Oh Lord, like I said, there's
I mean, if you want to try to find it there with you can bring it up and we could show the trailer for the movie.
I don't know if I don't know. I don't want to get a. I have to have approval to show them on a format like this, especially when I'm not just on my channel. I don't want. I don't want to get Enosh a strike. All right, let's see. My friend turned to MJF heel as sliding. MJF was trying to be nice, but my friend was an asshole to wrestlers. He doesn't like MJM was a dick. The next girl and wouldn't shake her hand. Wow, thanks a lot. Let's see, Lucha Man or I might. Yeah, I mean, for a guy who seems to hate everything modern about wrestling, Jim Cornette seems to take a liking to certain individuals. I didn't miss too much in the chat. Okay, cool. So
I keep knocking myself out, dude.
Yeah, it's probably a phone thing. Oh, I didn't see that. Okay, I hung out with Lloyd and procured some. Okay, it's not legal everywhere, Larry. Thanks. Now the DEA is watching.
Okay. William, I'm gonna bring because Stella's on her backstage right now.
Yeah,
I'm gonna bring her in because she's having trouble. Hold on, give me a second.
Go ahead, Baron. Okay, I'm gonna read the super chat while you guys are doing that. Larry, $5 super chat. Thank you for the support. I hung out with Lloyd and procured some weed with him about 20 years ago. Maybe you can get him to whisper in Gunn's ear, "Don't mess this up." Like I said, I don't think Gunn's. I think James Gunn knows that stakes. I just wish this has been handled better so far. But once again, I could wake up tomorrow or next week and he's tweeted something that makes everything more clearer. So right now, it just doesn't look good because we're talking about resetting things that never were finished to begin with. But if he gives me if he lays out, it makes his case next week or starting next week, then I may change my mind. Like I said, be careful, guys, about anything that whether you're following that you like. Do not paint yourself into a corner that you cannot enjoy your way out of. Don't paint yourself into a corner for hate for James Gunn. And then if he puts out something that's good, you maintain that hate because that's how you started. Evolve with the situation, evolve with the content, evolve with the creator. If he comes out and he puts something out that's blockbuster, support it, watch it, and like it. But like I said, leave yourself open. Otherwise, you might as well just cut out now. I mean,
William.
Go Go ahead, man.
She says she's stuck in in her own StreamYard.
Oops. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Oh no, well, no, you're there.
No,
You're there still, right?
That's me.
Oh, he dropped off.
You dropped Fade.
No, he dropped himself off. There you go. There you go.
I keep kicking myself out because when I go to the private chat to type in something, I hit the wrong button and kick myself out.
Yeah, well, I'm not. Well, we'll talk about it after the stream.
Yeah, I can.
It's
I know
not
it
working.
happened. I know it happened, but I can't fix it now. But I know it happened.
Yeah,
because,
fix it. Fix it after the stream. Just finish the stream. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So what?
Bye guys. Bye guys.
See you later. I'm just looking for some interesting. Let's see, Larry. Have you guys seen YouTube channel that mixes Metallica albums to sound like other ones, like the Black Album mix? Like, yes, I did. And here, I listened to.
And William takes himself out.
No, he's there. He's there.
Excuse me, we're having technical difficulties.
Yeah, but yeah, there's a song on the Black Album called "God That Belt." It has one of the best bass lines of any Metallica song, and they
the God That Failed is a great song.
Yeah, especially the way it opens up. I got to see that live in concert. But if you go to YouTube and put "God That Failed" cover, there's a version of the song that is as if it was on a mid-'80s album. So they've taken away that deep pitch and that over production value and made it sound more like their garage warehouse old studio days. And I actually like that more. I understand when people who don't like the Black Album say that it sounds like they sold out because, like I said, it's overproduced so that it could be on commercial radio. But the old stuff just was played wherever you could hear it. So, all right, what does Mondo agree with? He agreed with something. Okay, cool. The wrestler was great. Yeah, he was talking about the wrestler. Okay. The Black Album. Yeah, the Black Album is my number 2. It's my number 2, and I know a lot of people will set me on fire for putting that ahead of Masters of Puppets and Kill 'Em All, and something like that. But there's certain songs, and I guess it's where I was in life, and that album. That was the Black Album. I'm echoing.
The Black Album is fire. I learned to play guitar off the Black Album, so suck it, William.
You're not kidding. I agree with you.
I'm sorry. I was just doing some stuff, and I heard you, and I was listening. I just happened to tune in. I'm sorry, I'm on my computer, so I apologize. I don't have my setup hooked up. I'm not staying. I just heard you say something about the Black Album, and say in any kind of negative way, and I know that it's popular to hate on the Black Album. I just love the Black Album. I love all the early Metallica stuff. I cut my teeth on guitar playing that stuff, but there is something special about the Black Album. Just saying. I don't know why. I get it. People say that they sold out. Where they sold out was Load and Reload.
On Saint Anger.
Well, Saint Anger it came much later, but it was Load and Reload that. But you know what? Even Load and Reload. Now that I'm older, there are actually some good songs on Load and Reload.
Load is one of the better guitar stories I agree. But yeah, the Black for me is up there because the first album I was able to that was the first time I could buy T-shirts and tickets, so that was a special time for me. I can see where some people were overproduced, like I was explaining. There are versions of the Black Album where people are taking away that edge to it, where it sounds like Kill 'Em All, or it sounds like Justice for All. But to me, Black Album is one of the great albums, one of the best songs out there, best-selling album of all time. So it opened the door to me to actually go play and see that. It's behind Injustice for All. It's behind Injustice for All, but it's number 2 for me. It's there for me. So
would it be wrong of me to say I actually like some stuff off of Load and Reload?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like I said, Unforgiven 2, the guitar solo for Unforgiven 2, I love. And I thought they did some good work. It's that once you become what they are, and people have expectations for what they want them to be, and I don't, let them evolve. That's fine with me. When I go to concerts, they're playing Seek and Destroy. They're playing Sanitarium. They're playing all the old hits. So do what they want to do with the new stuff. Whereas with Weezer, it was totally 100% different because Weezer changed their music, in my opinion. They didn't. They started out with 2 awesome albums and then transformed into something that wasn't recognizable as Weezer for a lot of years. Metallica really never did that. The songs for the Black Album are shorter and they're a little bit more produced. That's still Wolf and Man is still as much Metallica as anything else. Unforgiven is just as much Metallica as anything else that they released. And the God That Built, the song I just brought up, is just as much Metallica as anything that's on any of those albums. Is it a 7 to 9 minute song? No, because yes, you did have to make some commercial concessions to get 6 million albums sold or whatever like that. But I don't see that album as an outlier. But I do understand some aspects that people do disagree with it. But it's number 2 for me. So,
well, yeah, excellent discussion. We should actually have some more like album discussions. That'd be great show topics. But anyways, I just heard you talk about the Black Album. The Black Album is responsible basically for me really, I think, staying with guitar in general. Like when I was young, like as far as like from a rock perspective, just because look, yeah, it was easy to play. There was a lot of stuff on there that was easy to play, but there were some things too that would help get you like take you from one place to another. And I will say this, there's a lot of guitar players who put down the Black Album for different things, but they play the songs wrong. Just going to say, there are songs on the Black Album that I thought that I knew how to play since I was like 16, 17 years old, that when I actually learned how to play them, I went, oh, okay, so we're all wrong. Okay, that's cool. I get it. It's just one of those things. There's some songs that it sounds easy to play or it sounds one thing and you can mimic it, but to actually play it the way that it's supposed to be played is a different thing. And yeah, I love Metallica. I am watching.
I will be right there with you defending the Black Album. Like I said, not my favorite, but it's number two.
Sure, I will say this too, and then I got to go. But yeah, I actually started that Some Kind of Monster documentary. Yeah, I actually started watching it. I haven't gotten all the way through it. I just started it, but you know what I love? You know I honestly love right now about my son being a drummer is I started it and I started watching it a little bit, and Landon comes in and he starts making comments about Lars, which for my son, who just turned 18 2 days ago, to come in and see something about Metallica and actually have an opinion and start talking about Metallica means everything to me as a dad. So there you go. Rock on, guys. Love y'all. All right, we'll see you later. All right, bye-bye.
Okay, so let's hit back in the chat. We got about 12, maybe about 15 minutes left, and then we're gonna wrap up, which has been a very eventful, very well. I think this has been one of my better shows. Not in regards to me addressing the chat on time, but as far as like content goes, I mean, it's been a. Let's see, with different production, the Black Album would go straight doom. Hey, that's actually true. I agree with that. I Stand By Bleeding Me being one of the best songs of Metallica. I remember that song. Oh, what's the song with Marianne? What's her face doing? The Memory Remains.
Until It Sleeps. No, not Until It Sleeps.
No, not that. Until It Sleeps. I hate that song. The Memory
Remains. Memory Remains.
Oh, the video. Remember the video for that? They're spitting on that thing. I thought that was awesome. I actually didn't, I didn't hate all of their new stuff. It's just their newer stuff didn't have back-to-back hits like everything else that they had put out. So it was a little bit different. They tried some, experiment, be creative. So I didn't mind that. Like I said, I minded it with Weezer because I thought the experimentation they did transformed them into a different band, and it took away from the things that made them special. You listen to new Weezer now because there's an album that they did. They released 2 albums, one that just got released and then one a couple months ago for the seasons. There's a song on there. I forgot what it's almost too Weezer. It's about Alone with My Son. I mean, it is just then it's one about a dog passing away. It's a rock song with power chords about the dog getting a dog. No, not passing away, but getting a dog. somehow Weezer made a song about going to get a dog, a power chord ballad that I'm loving.
Wow.
So it's old Weezer, and like I said, a lot of people would do power chords, and especially back in the grunge era, and they'd be like, all you do is power chords. I'm like, you know what? That's fucking great. If you're a power chord, if you're Bush, if you're Nirvana, and your strength is in power chords, that doesn't mean you're any less of a magician. When Weezer started going away from the power, that's when I started getting, and I know there's other songs on there that are not power ballads, but even Buddy Holly on the Blue album, Buddy Holly's a power song. You listen to Buddy Holly, Matt Sharp on bass, and Cuomo on guitar, they are powering their way through that song. And it was weird to see them go in a different, in my opinion, in a different direction. And like I said, I'm listening to this new thing that they just put out on their channel, and it's amazing. So welcome back, Weezer. Took you to get into your 50s to get there, but hey, you're as immortal as the songs you produce. All right, Chew, Load and Reload were known as sellouts, but they definitely were better than Saint Anger. Yeah, so Saint Anger was a little bit hard for me. My husband is actually teaching me to play guitar. Wow, I wish I started. I am started. So somebody's on my channel now. Is that you?
Hmm?
Somebody's on as me. That means one. Is that Stella and as me?
No, she said she was in hers. So I don't know. It's all confused.
All right. Oh, it's because all right, I see what it's Enosh. I
okay.
both channel. It's Enosh. I'm like, oh man, I've been hacked, but he's benevolent. All right, so let's get to the. Let's see. Saint Anger is hilariously bad. I may say there's a lot of people that don't like Saint Anger. Yeah, there's some songs on there. Like I said, there's no way you could listen to those albums. There may be some that you're like, I don't think I'll be listening to on rotation all the time. But there's like some, like I said,
I like the song Hero of the Day.
Yeah, I love The Memory Remains. I love the way that song wraps up with that la 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 la, and
Marianne Faithful.
Yeah, that's it. That to me, I'm like, wow, that's cool. Yeah, I did watch that documentary, but the way that we're talking about. All right, Clint. I love listening to Charlie Brown's Teacher. Jeez. I love the Black Album. Like I said, I will defend the Black Album. Like I will not put it above Injustice for All, but I will defend its viability as being as much Metallica and as much metal as anything that Metallica put out. More metal talk always. Yeah, I find myself in weird conversations when it comes to whatever. I never know what I'm going to end up talking about. Like I said the other night, we were talking about serial killers for a legit hour and a half, and it wasn't like hollow talk. We were literally bringing up like methods and shit. It was hilarious. What else do you play? Point Extra Lounge at the Therapist. Okay, so I'm just going to power through some of these.
My absolute favorite Metallica songs, though, are the Unforgivens.
Yeah, the second one, like I said, the second Unforgiven 2, and there's a third one too. But the second one is probably their most underrated song, and that's that Kirk Hammett's solo in that. I love that song is right in line with Unforgiven. It's just not Unforgiven in name; it's Unforgiven in style, drive, solo. So I really did like that song on there. Yeah, that's he's Enosh singing it. That song was so catchy too, dude.
The Memory Remains. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it's gonna be in my head all night. All right.
Na 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 na.
Yeah.
Na 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 na.
She's saying something in behind that too, so it's just the creepiest fucking song. But I love, like I said, I can't get enough of them. I want to see them one or two more times before they stop returning. The one band I never got to see live, and I don't know if I'll ever get to see them, was AC/DC. That's another band I wanted to see live. And AC/DC had some good hits later on in their career. But yeah, so For Whom the Bell Tolls and Fade to Black are best Metallica songs. Those are up there. What's my And Justice for All, the actual title track to that album, is probably my favorite overall song. Harvester of Sorrow. I can listen to Harvester of Sorrow and be ready to beat somebody's ass by the time I get to.
Harvester of Sorrows is a good one. I love Of Wolf and Man.
Yeah, I love Wolf and Man. The God That Fails is up there. It's up there in my top 4. Sanitarium.
Sanitarium's great, but
great songs of all time.
Another one of my favorite Metallica albums is Garage Inc.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about. What's going on there? A lot of people don't know about that album. That was released in what, 87, 88?
No, that was Garage Days. Garage Inc. was in the 90s.
Okay, no, I'm talking about Garage Days. Okay, then that, yeah, I really don't. I have not listened to a lot of that album. I think I have that too. I actually think I have that at the house. I don't listen.
Garage Inc. It's a 2-disc. It's a lot of their their covers. It's got Whiskey in the Jar on it. It's got There's a Devil Waiting by Your Side.
I do have that. I have
Loverman.
Okay, guys, you want to know how old school I go back when it comes to Metallica? I'm gonna hold on for a second. I'm gonna remove you, Dave, and I'm gonna bring you back in. Hold on. This is how. Let me get so that you guys can see it. Let me get him off the screen. This is how old I go. This is how far back I go at Metallica. This is live shit, binge and purge. I have the rest of it somewhere around here in storage, but it came. This was, just we didn't have the DVDs and stuff like that. Yeah, this came with all the tapes, and it was all live, and it was all live stuff that we did around concert, and it came in a huge ass box you could buy, and these tapes are in it. This is my original one. I bought this when I graduated basic training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma in 1993. This came out in 1993. And actually, when they toured in Vegas in 1994, it was to promote this. It's a big silver box, like a chest. It's about this big. And when you bought it, it had little magazine parts, it had stickers, it had everything. This is how far back I go. This is mine. This is not something I picked up out of yard sale. I bought this 30 years ago. I bought this 30 years ago. I still have this. I still have the whole thing. This is the San Diego one. Each one of them came with a different place that they had toured. So this whole entire one is San Diego, and then they had LA or New York or something like that. But each tape and each one was from that concert. And then it had the VHS that goes along with it. All right. That's how far back I go. That's how long. And this is when I had army money and a job and I was able to buy shit. So that is how far I go back. If you want to know how intensely I am and for that band. So yeah, that's and we'll also let you know how fucking old I am. I'm still here. Let's see, Mondo's still here. I gave my box set to Kel's mom. I bought it from warehouse in 1998 or so. See, I bought that shit. And I couldn't believe that they had it because I was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and it's like the plains, and there's like one store or whatever. And the one store we went to, they had it. They had it in different forms. You could buy. I think there was CD-ROMs or the CDs too, but they were newer and it was more expensive. But I bought the whole box. I was so happy. It was expensive as fuck, but I just got my military bonus. I had I was doing good. And it was one of the first major purchases I made as somebody who had a good paying job. And this was tape number 2. But like I said, somewhere around here in either the storage at the store of my house, I have all of these. I have the tapes. The tapes are useless because I listen to the shit out of them. But this was the one. Once I watched the VHS, this actually is in pretty decent condition for being 30 years old and being as well traveled as it is. But yeah. Man, it was one of the coolest things I bought. I remember watching it with my army buddies in the barracks. We just watched the fuck out of that. We got a bunch of us. We got a bunch of us from all different walks of life. We got people from Tennessee. We had people from people from Carolina, New York, LA. We all packed into a small dorm room when I bought this in. Somebody went and got, because the dorm rooms we didn't have TVs and stuff in our dorm rooms. So we had to go get from the Army supply room. We had to go get a one of those things that you used to roll around in school, the cart and everything. We went and got that. We rolled it. You got that bastard upstairs. We put that thing in, and we were blasting. It was like we had a concert. I mean, those were some days right there, man. But yeah, I had that thing. Yeah, that's oh my goodness. We'll be going home this summer. Congratulations. Hope everything's going out good with you, Michelle. Let's see. All right, I think you got anything you want to get off your chest, Thade? I think
not that I can think of.
All right, so I think what time is it? It's 12 o'clock, guys. We did it. We did it in a very weird way. Sorry for you guys that I wasn't able to address it immediately, but like I said, given the situation, I've never had back-to-back guests on. I hope to make that a regular thing because, like I said, I want to be able to get other. You guys got introduced to some things tonight that you may not have been thinking of prior to coming onto this stream. Maybe you'll check out Rock Avenue. I changed my life, literally. The original Rock Avenue changed the way I see music. Hopefully, if you are on the other side of the whole Snyder issues, seeing how he articulated his point in his article, and I will put that article in the chat. Hopefully, you guys get a chance to read that, and maybe that'll give you some insight about different pathways, different ways of thinking. If you aren't a wrestling fan or you are a closet wrestling fan, hopefully us talking about our experiences and stuff when it comes to being wrestling fans, hopefully you'll give that a chance. If any of you give the time of day to anything that I bring onto the screen for you, that is cool. That is the whole purpose of this experiment. So happy to have you guys here. And with that, I think we're going to call it a night. I've done it. I've shepherded you in to what was Saturday, now into Sunday. And it's time for me to go home and get ready to watch the rest of these NFL teams choke their season away, which is inevitably will probably happen. So, all right, guys, goodbye. Good night. Good luck.